Welcome. I am your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on social media at MMA LOT, and joined by my guy, Cody Saftic. You guys can follow him on Twitter at CJ Saftic, and we're here propping you up for UFC 272, headlined by a grudge match between Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. Good God, I can't wait to finally see this fight go down. Yesterday, I wasn't as jacked, but for some reason today, Cody, I am jacked to watch this fight. What is your excitement level for this? And obviously, how are you doing, bro?
Yeah, good. I mean, excitement level high. It's Colby Covington fight. It's pay-per-view, but it's not like the card's any better than a regular card. It's got a sweet-ass main event between a journeyman and Colby Covington. And then Rafael Dos Anjos, not his fault, right? Him versus Fiziev would have been a great co-main event. But now you got short notice. Fun fights on the card. But again, Sergey Spivak, Greg Hardy's on the main card as a pay-per-view. The rest of the prelims, good but not great talent. Other than Umar Nurmagomedov, I think he could potentially be a great talent. Yeah. Excitement level the same as always. But I'll tell you something, right? The last two events, we've done exceptionally well. The last two events, they're like fight nights. They fly under the radar. This is a pay-per-view. Oh, it's got the bright lights. Like the excitement level is only as good as the picks are, right? So let's hit some winning picks, make some money, and that in itself is what's going to make it a great night.
Absolutely. And not just winning picks, but we got some hopefully winning props for you guys. Obviously, that's what the show is all about. But first and foremost, let's pay some bills real quick. Shout out to the All-Star for hosting us on their platform once again. Obviously, big things for us, for me and Cody, to get a wider platform like this. So shout out to everybody that's hopped on to the show, supported us from way back in the day. So obviously now here on the All-Star. But obviously, big shout out to CloudBet as well, one of the main sponsors of the show. They give you 100% sign-up bonus when you sign up with them. They are the first crypto book in the space, so make sure you guys go check them out. They take fiat now through MoonPay. They're available in many countries. Fast withdrawals, low margins, high limits. Make sure you guys check them out. And if you don't have access to CloudBet, check out BOVADA as well. They give you a $250 welcome bonus. All of these links are in the description below. Make sure you guys go use them, and we can show them that the Propping You Up Army is for real, and we have some pull and some sway. I'm obviously seeing it on the subscriber count for the All-Star as well. We've absolutely blown it up for them, especially since the inauguration of the show on their channel. So we greatly thank every single one of you that has come over. I know we missed a couple of you on the first two episodes because of the transition period, but now it seems the numbers are starting to go back up to what they used to be, and I'm happy to see that now the goal is to get them higher than they are before. All right, let's get into this goddamn card here. We got UFC 272. We got 13 fights coming at you starting at 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. The early prelims kick off with a light heavyweight scrap here between Dustin Jacoby and Michal Oleksiejczuk. We got minus 220 on Jacoby and plus 180 on Michal Oleksiejczuk. Very excited for this fight. This should be a fun fight. Oleksiejczuk always brings the fight in his whenever he goes in there and steps inside the cage, right? There's one thing on his mind: forward pressure. And if there's a second thing on his mind, it's either body shots or eventually dig to the body and eventually open up the head and try to get his opponents out there. We saw him at his best in his last fight against Shamil Gamzatov, where he went in there and just absolutely sucked the gas tank out of Gamzatov within 3 minutes and then eventually finished him there. It more so seemed like Gamzatov wanted out of there than anything, which is why he probably went down off that uppercut. But that's what Oleksiejczuk does when he's at his best. But people are kind of forgetting about that fight that he had right before that against Modestas Bukauskas, where it went the full 15 minutes. And in my opinion, I thought he deserved to lose the fight. We saw better things from Bukauskas than we did from Gamzatov in terms of throwing feints, throwing jabs, staying active, staying mobile, but also presenting attacks that required Oleksiejczuk to respect him and didn't push him as much as he was able to push Gamzatov. Now, I'm talking about Bukauskas, who was having that type of success against Oleksiejczuk. Now you're throwing in Dustin motherfucking Jacoby, who is actually a legitimate technical striker. Obviously, he has that glory kickboxing behind his name as well. But when we see him inside the cage, he throws in combinations, uses his range very well, uses feints very effectively, which I think is going to be very important in this fight against Oleksiejczuk. And I think he'll be able to keep him on the end of his jab, keep him on the end of his strikes. And like that first round, don't get me wrong, it's going to be tough. Oleksiejczuk is going to come through and he's going to try to establish that dominance right off the bat. But I feel like Jacoby, with his extended kickboxing career and even MMA career, he's dealt with all sorts of these kinds of guys in the past. And I feel like he'll be able to establish that that effective striking from the outside, the counter striking, especially to make Oleksiejczuk respect him and eventually, start taking over the later that this fight goes. So the two ways that I'm looking to play this fight, I don't mind the chalk on Jacoby. I do think he's a much better fighter in this. His durability is great. The guy's been taking some shots on the chin and continues to chug forward, taking big shots from Iwan Kutilaba, came back and still managed to make that a very close fight. Was a draw. I can completely understand that. The only time he's been knocked out clean in his kickboxing career by one Alex Pereira. And we know what Alex Pereira brings to the table in terms of his power. But yeah, I trust the durability of Jacoby here to go out and get the job done. We got Jacoby sitting at plus 250 to win via decision. I wouldn't even mind a Jacoby round 3 stab at plus 900 because I think by that time, Oleksiejczuk will be worn down, and Jacoby could probably find that fight-ending counter strike to put him down and out. So I like Jacoby decision, Jacoby round 3. What about you, Cody?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't got a really strong lean either side. Like I think, like you said, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk's going to come forward. He's going to be probably the aggressor, and he's going to be looking to find a home for that left hand. But if he fades out in the second and third round, then Jacoby's got the volume. He's got the veteran savvy ship. He's a much bigger guy. So that's another thing about Prince Michael I've just never really liked. He's a small 205er, man. I mean, he's got the frame of a middleweight. He's only 6 feet tall. Jacoby's 6'3". He's a big boy. Did fight at middleweight previously in his career as well, but in the later years, he's definitely filled out. Like you said, dude's fought Simon Marcus twice and lived to tell the tale. Got injured the second time, but all the same, dude. Fought Simon Marcus twice, lived to tell the tale. He's a tough, durable guy. He's got the better cardio. He trains at altitude in Colorado. But you've seen certain performances from Jacoby where if he's not in shape, if he's a little sick, if he's not feeling good fight week, then his cardio completely zaps off. The Maxim Grishin fight, which I guess is 4 fights back. But of course, the guy fought 4 times in 2021. So 4 fights back is not really that long ago. He definitely gets gassed himself. And then when he gets gassed, he gets sloppy. He's also kind of hittable as well. The John Allen fight, he puts up great numbers, lands like 150 significant strikes. But he gets hit fairly often in that fight as well. And Allen just got nothing for him beyond the first round. So I could see a world where Prince Michael has some success moving forward and brawling a little bit. I could see a world where just Jacoby lays back and just lands kicks. Then there's another thing. If you look at Michael Oleksiejczuk's last few fights, nobody kicks. He doesn't kick. And his opponents don't kick either. Modestas Bukauskas, fight goes full 15. Now their guy kicks each other. Whereas Jacoby, he's landed 30 kicks in 2 of his last 4 fights. Dude loves staying at range. I mean, even his fight with Ion Kutalaba, he landed 9 kicks, but he got taken down 9 times. So hard to kick off your back, right? It's a staple of his game. And so, yeah, big cage. They're at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. It's going to be a big arena feel. If Jacoby minds his P's and Q's, stays to the outside, doesn't get tired, chips away at him. So the way I see this one is if you were Team Jacoby, I'd probably take a little stab at that plus 225, plus 250 for the Jacoby by decision. But the other side of it is just take the fight goes the distance. Or beyond that, my book offers fight completes 2 rounds, minus 125, and the over 2.5 at maybe not fight fully goes the distance, but over 2.5 at minus 105. I think it's probably going to be a kickboxing match that both guys live to tell the tale. I think the reason you're getting a good price on that is if you were to tape study Michael Oleksiejczuk, doesn't usually go to decision, right? I mean, a lot of his fights are finishes. But Gamzatov's a bum, right? Ballooned up 13-0 record. Dude, I was all over Prince Michael that night.
Yeah.
This dude
sorry. Let me just correct you one thing.
Yeah.
That Lord Michal. Let's go with Lord Michal. I think Prince is a little bit too posh for him. This motherfucker is a lord.
Is he? He hasn't quite earned lordship in my opinion. He's just kind of still Prince Michael if he wants to spice things up and go on a serious run here. Great. A win over Jacoby would help. But again, Jean Valente's over the hill. He cooks him really quick. Volante was up, no good. Antigulov, total bum, topples over. Shamil Gamzatov, total bum, topples over. Jimmy Crew just blew through him on the ground, and this fight ain't going to hit the ground, so you throw that one out the window. And against Aubin St. Preux straight up, he won the first round, looked really good. Yeah. Second round, gassed out, and ended up getting submitted with the Von Preux. So, again, throw the Von Preux submission out the window, but him gassing out all the same, that was a bad look. What I'm saying is that just because you see all those quick finishes, I think it's going to go quicker. It'll go more like the Modestas Bukauskas fight. I think it'll be more of a sparring match over 15. And at the very least, if it's a late finish, okay, but fight completes 2 rounds or the over 2.5, I think that's the best prop I'd want to attack from my standpoint.
I like that as well. I want to give a quick shout out to my guys over at the Lambo Plays podcast. My guy Narco Cop and all the guys over there. They kind of opened my eyes more to like the juicier props, something that me and you don't really touch on more so. Like fighter wins by TKO in round 3, and you get like plus 1,600 on something crazy like that. So I wanted to look even deeper into the props and see if we can dig out anything more for the viewers. And 2 that actually came out or kind of caught my eye. Either fighter to win by KO at minus 125. I don't mind that shot there either, because there is obviously openings for both guys to find that KO. I do more so agree with you, though, that we probably see this go the full 15. But the other prop that caught my eye was Jacoby wins in round 3 or by decision at plus 165. I don't think that's a bad shot either.
Yeah, that's actually not bad.
He can finish this in the third round or get that decision as well. Again, I know some of those props aren't widely available, but I do just want to throw them out on top of the other props that we're throwing out there for people as well. All right. Let's move on to the next fight here. We got a 155-pound scrap between Klein and Devontae Smith. In terms of odds, we're currently looking at minus 150 for Devontae Smith and plus 130 on Klein. I was kind of surprised by the opener here on Klein, which is at plus 210. Obviously, a ton of money coming in on Klein now, pushing him down to that plus 130 spot. I feel like this is going to be one of those bangers, man. Devontae Smith obviously coming off a knockout loss to Jamie Mullarkey last time around. It seemed like it was kind of a shot to the eye that was ultimately the ending there for Devontae Smith. As soon as Jamie landed that shot, you see Devontae start like blinking, trying to kind of pat his eye, and then Jamie Mullarkey smells the blood, goes after the kill, and eventually gets it there. So good win for him there. But we've seen Devontae Smith obviously knocked out in past fights, right? Obviously the Kama Worthy fight comes to mind as well. On the Klein side, he was supposed to go out there and cruise against Nate the Train Landwehr. Nate the Train had completely different plans that night, hurting Klein multiple times in that fight, and then eventually choking him out in that third round. A couple spots that I'm looking at in this fight, man. Fight doesn't go to decision is currently hanging around minus 225. I had it at minus 175 earlier this week on Bodog. I thought that was a damn good spot. Now, Klein, a little bit low output at times, but is very effective when he does actually let his strikes go. Devontae Smith will obviously be the faster striker of the two, and he holds a ton of power in his own right. But I do think the fact that Smith will be throwing a little bit more, Klein will be enticed to throw a little bit more counters. Maybe eventually you can catch him with one of those head kicks that he's claimed many a body with. I think he catches another body this weekend by knocking out Devontae Smith probably in the second or third round. So specific props, Klein by KO is hanging at plus 330, which is, I think, a little bit crazy here, especially considering we know the durability issues of Devontae Smith and the knockout power of Ludwig Klein. And if I'm not mistaken, the number is 33 out of 35 combined fights of these guys have finished inside the distance. And they're giving me minus 175 up to minus 225. I'm okay with that. I think it might seem dicey early, but as this fight starts to wear on, I think we'll see them start to open up a little bit more and eventually find that knockout, which is why I don't like the 1.5. I'd rather just take the fight doesn't go to decision and call it a day here. But in terms of a winner, I'm going to go Klein by KO plus 330. Sign me up. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm actually eyeing for that 1.5, and I'm thinking just the over. But yeah, I don't think the fight goes the distance, but I think that it will be a bit of a feeling out process. One thing about Devontae Smith is he's live in the first 3 to 5 minutes. I mean, the guy's got pretty good striking. He's athletic. He's got good footwork, and he's very sharp. He's intercepting Jamie Mullarkey multiple times and stinging him. Good thing Mullarkey's got a hell of a chin on him because Devontae Smith looks great in that first round. Now, you say it was maybe the eye poke. It wasn't a poke in the eye. They looked at it like it was a poke in the eye. It was a punch.
Yeah, it was a punch. Yeah.
Yeah, so here's my theory on that one, right? Not the moment he breaks mentally and says, you know what, I'm out of here. End of the first round, okay? He's had a great first 3.5, 4 minutes. End of the first round, there's about a minute left, and Mullarkey's taking his best shots, and Mullarkey starts charging forward. Clubs him a couple times, presses him up against the cage, 10-second clapper goes, picks him up, dumps him on the ground, punches him twice in the head, and that was the moment that Devontae Smith was like, oh no, I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired. He took my best shots, and he's still coming after me. Now the second round starts, and he's already mentally broken. He gets punched in the face, complains it's an eye poke, not an eye poke, resumes, and then gets finished shortly thereafter. He's kind of just a 5-round guy, or a 1-round guy, sorry. He did look good against Justin James into that second round before getting the doctor stoppage, but I don't know how much resistance Justin James is realistically giving him. Kama Worthy knocked him out in the first round, but you'd have to go all the way back to his loss to John Gunther to see the last time he lost, and once you know it, flat out gasses in the third round, and John Gunther takes over and TKOs him. So there's been history of him gassing out. Guys that move that well, guys that punch that fast, guys that hit that hard, generally do tend to taper off. And so I would agree that the longer the fight goes, Ludovic Klein should be able to take over. Ludovic Klein's also got an underrated takedown game. He got 3 takedowns against Mike Trezano, and nice takedowns, dude. Yeah. He was a little tired in the 3rd round too, but he still got the takedown. Excellent entries, shoots right through. He had been training at Stanford MMA. Not sure if it's a visa issue, not sure if it's pandemic issue. It appears he's back home, not at Stanford for this camp. But again, he's young, he's talented, he's getting better, and I think if he uses his wrestling to tire Devontae Smith out early, that the finish will probably open itself later the fight goes. But his wrestling will slow down the tempo. We'll hit that over 1.5, and if he finishes him, it's when Devontae Smith tires and hits the 1.5. If Devontae is going to win, you got to think quick knockout. Klein's got a hell of a chin on him as well, so I don't know that quick knockout is the way to put this kid away. Anything could happen, but at minus 150 for the over 1.5, again, that's where I'd be playing my safe money.
I like it. All right, let's keep this thing moving along. Next up, we got a flyweight fight between Tim Elliott against Tagir Ulanbekov. In terms of odds, we got minus 240 on Ulanbekov and plus 195 the return on Tim Elliott. Very intriguing fight because I'm seeing a lot of love for Tim Elliott there, and I kind of get it because even though Ulanbekov's 2-0 in his UFC career, those performances have been kind of underwhelming considering the amount of hype he had coming into the UFC. I had him in a ton of parlays in his UFC debut against Bruno Silva, and I'm telling you, Cody, I was sweating that as soon as I went to the judges' scorecards. I'm like, is he gonna get this one? I don't know. I know it's on Fight Island. There might be some of that, Russian influence over there, and luckily we were able to get his hand raised there. But then obviously the next fight he went up against Alan Nascimento, and Nascimento won that first round pretty much off of his back, right? Unanimously on the judges' scorecards, all 3 judges gave Alan Nascimento that first round. Had a couple close submission attempts, was landing some strikes off of his back, but then finally Tagir woke up and in that 2nd and 3rd round was trying to take over. Still found himself in a couple submissions there from Alan Nascimento, but still got out of them and then started raining down some decent shots from on top to eventually get his hand raised that night. Now going up against Tim Elliott, he's fighting another guy that's kind of wild and wacky, sometimes off of his back, throws up submissions, even with the striking style, very unorthodox. He's a switch stance fighter, doesn't really abide by the rules of technical striking, but still manages to have some good success. If you just look at the result of the Askarov fight for Tim Elliott, you'd think that Askarov just wipes him, but that was a close fight, man. Tim Elliott was doing some good things in that fight. Landed some great takedowns, some hip tosses in that fight. I believe Askarov, got shut out in terms of actually landing any takedowns in that fight, but was still doing good enough work with his hands to get his hand raised. But I was surprised at how close that actually was once I actually ran the tape back. But here against Ulanbekov, man, Ulanbekov does a very good job in terms of staying a step or two ahead of his opponent in terms of scrambles and anything on the mat. There's not often you see him on his back. More often than not, he's trying to sprawl as best as possible and then eventually get his head higher than his opponents and get the better of those grappling and scrambling exchanges. That's what I'm expecting to happen here as well. I don't mind his striking, right? I do think he has a cleaner, crisper striking compared to Tim Elliott, but even I have cleaner, crisper striking than Tim Elliott, considering how wild and wacky he throws his shots. But I still do think that Tagir will get the better of some of those striking exchanges. But I do think it's just a matter of time before this hits the grappling exchanges. And then from there, I think we're going to see some back and forth. But more often than not, it's going to be Tagir kind of coming on top. There's only that one time that we saw Tim Elliott kind of, gas out in the Brandon Royval fight where he gave up a submission in that fight. And I wouldn't take too much away from that, especially considering how Brandon Royval fights, right? The guy's a wacky motherfucker in his own right. But I feel like Tagir will get the top position more often than not in this fight. And I think he'll be able to grind this fight out. The line that sticks out to me the most, though, is the over 2.5 at minus 165. I'm expecting a ton of grappling exchanges here, and I'd kind of be surprised if either guy locks up a submission or even gets a dominant position to the point of raining down some big blows from on top. So, Cody, you know me, I'm a violence guy, but at minus 165 for 2 fighters like this, who, more often than not, if you look through their record, they do go to decision once they're fighting like legitimate competition. Give me the decision here, man. Even the fight to go to a decision is currently sitting at minus 150. Ulanbekov via decision plus 130. That's kind of the method of victory prop that I'd stick with. But even the fight goes to decision to cover both sides because Tim Elliott could make this fight close with these very close fights, especially with what we've been seeing from Ulanbekov recently. But give me the fight goes to decision at minus 150, over 2.5 at minus 165. Sign me up. Am I speaking out of turn here? How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, straight up, this is gonna be my apple pie shitter of the week because I'm gonna bet Tagir, and I got a feeling that he's probably gonna pull some wonky business and lose. But I'm going to bet him. I do like him. Tim Elliott's definitely a wild card because he's got the unorthodox style, like you said. Dominic Cruz, if he smoked a hit of meth right before he went out there. But it's really hard to get a gauge of. And the thing is that him at his best, he's got some decent volume. His volume better than Tagir. Tagir might have maybe sharper, more linear strikes. He's a big, long guy. He fights long. But Tim Elliott's going to hit you from awkward angles. If he moves forward, he's going to have a lot of success. You see him in the Matus Nicolau fight, especially early in the first round. It's like, my God, Tim Elliott. How do you get a beat on this guy? And he's got the volume. Here's my thing, though, right? I loaded up on Tagir's last 2 fights, and I had the same sweat that you did, my friend. But the first time around against Bruno Silva, Bruno just had a bad UFC record. He was 0-2 at the time. He was 0-3 after he lost to Tagir. But dude is super tough, training partner of Henry Cejudo, in the room every day. It's a solid victory, especially for a UFC debut. Second fight, it's difficult to fight a guy that's going to throw up that many submissions because the entire time you're on top, you're defending submissions. And what are the judges looking at? Are they looking at I defended everything he threw up or the fact that he threw a pile of submissions? So those are very difficult styles to deal with. Tim Elliott at his best can wrestle. He can strike. He can throw up submissions. And he can fight 15 minutes, no problem. That's him at his best. I just don't think he's at his best anymore. He's 35 years old now, but he's had a lot of wear and tear. Just bear with me on this one. The Brandon Royval fight, you said it yourself. He gassed, right? Because he did. He has a decent first round, pushes a pace. Second round, not the Tim Elliott of old. Tim Elliott of old went 25 minutes against Demetrius Johnson. This guy, tired after 2 rounds. Fair. Ryan Benoit fight. Very interesting, this Ryan Benoit fight. So, on all 3 judges' scorecards, he loses the 3rd round to Ryan Benoit. On top of that, Couchside Judges, MMA Junkie, MMA Mania, 2 guys from SureDog, Polscat Sports, Combat Press, and Nick Baldwin from The Score. Shout out Nick Baldwin. WrestlingObserver.com, TheBodylock.com, and Fansided, and Abila B Press. Anyways, all score the fight for Ryan Benoit. All of those credible MMA journalists, media news sites, score the fight for Benoit. All 3 judges give the 3rd round for Ryan Benoit because Tim tired. And that's not something that Tim used to do, but he did it in the Royval fight, and then he did it there. The Jordan Espinosa fight was a cruiser because he already trained with the guy. He knew he could take him down. And once he did take him down, Espinosa didn't do shit. So he didn't necessarily tire in that one. But it was just there was no resistance being pressed against him. And then that last fight against Matus Nicolau starts off great. First round, Tim Elliott wins it. Second round, Tim starts to slow. Second round, Nicolau's landing the more meaningful shots. And second round goes to Matus Nicolau. The 3rd round, for whatever reason, James Krause tells him you're up 2. And Matus just takes him down and he just sets up in full guard. He just goes to neutralize positions, lockdown. He goes after the lockdown a few times and I'm just going to hold this guy on top of me for the entire round. Gets up with like a minute left and there's just not enough time to steal the round back. Bonehead move, first of all. Second of all, looked like he tired again. And third of all, if that's what you're going to do when you're on your back, good luck because Tagir's going to put you on your back. So Tim Elliott of old, yeah, he can spring the upset. He's definitely live, and he still is. He still is. But his last 4, he just doesn't look like he's got the same pace that you're going to need to put on Tagir. And for that reason, got to go with Ulanbekov, who's been in camp with Islam Makhachev, and just all the best guys right now. And they're all in camp around the same period of time. I got to assume he's good to go for a hard 15, and I'm not sure Elliott's going to have that same ability. So I go with Tagir. Now, again, I would go with the fight goes the distance. I would go with the over 2.5. And the Tagir by points is like, what, plus 150. Pretty good, too.
I like that. Sorry, I thought you were going to add something to the end of that as well. But I'm glad that you kind of see it same as me in terms of seeing this fight go the full 15 minutes. If Tagir goes out there and actually gets a finish, like kind of going on with some of the narrative that you're saying that Tim Elliott, not of old anymore, and he could potentially gas out as one. Tagir could take advantage from there. I wouldn't mind taking that L on the chin though, but I see this one kind of just being a grinding fight where Tim Elliott stays safe enough, but Tagir still kind of dominates him from on top. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. Another Russian monster. We got Umar Nurmagomedov going up against Brian Kelleher. In terms of odds, we got minus 675 on Nurmi and plus 475 on Brian Boom Kelleher. Interesting fight here. Umar Nurmagomedov, a great kicking game. That's something that we've obviously seen from him, obviously in his UFC debut against Sergey Morozov early last year. He's been relatively inactive. I'm not 100% sure why, but he has been inactive, and this is going to be his first fight back in 14 months. Regardless, going up against a veteran like Brian Kelleher, I still think he's going to be able to go out there and perform. Like I said, he does a good job in the kicking range, kind of throwing spinning kicks and just staying active enough with the kicks from the outside, and then just waits for the perfect opportunity to eventually close that distance, land his takedowns, and really starts pulling these guys to the ringer. Brian Kelleher, solid veteran, man. Like, we saw him deal with a wrestler heavy approach from a guy like Hunter Azure back in the day, kept that fight standing, and eventually found that knockout in the second round. But then we know there's levels to this, right? Then he goes up against Ricky Simone and is not able to stop takedowns there. And we see Ricky Simone kind of just cruise through that fight as well. But you have to respect the power that Brian Kelleher has. If you come in sloppy at all, he will take full advantage of that. But that's also where his kind of downfall in this fight is. It's the having to exchange in the pocket to be able to have success. And I'd be surprised if we see Umar in the pocket for longer than 5 seconds at a time, or even 3 seconds at a time. If he's in the pocket, more than likely he's going to be on your hips. If he's in the pocket, it's more than likely he's entering to get onto your hips to eventually get the takedown. Otherwise, he's going to stay safe at range and try to kick you from the outside until he finds that opportunity to take you down. Kelleher, mean guillotine. Obviously, that's something that Umar is going to have to look out for here. But shoot me in the head if Umar Nurmagomedov goes out there and gets guillotined by a guy like Brian Kelleher. I'd be surprised if he falls for something like that. Maybe a possible club and sub. Okay, I'd understand that. But if it's a clean takedown and a clean guillotine, I'd give up capping fights, honestly, if that ever happens. But I still do think that we'll see Nurmagomedov have success here. I don't think he finishes Kelleher, to be honest. Kelleher is quite durable. It's going to be very tough to put a guy like that away. And I think Nurmagomedov wants to stay as safe as possible in this fight. And to do that, he's going to have to accumulate as much top control as possible. So the way that I kind of see this going, over 2.5, that's currently at -135. And then obviously Nurmagomedov via decision, that currently sits at even money or even at +100, depending on where you get it. I have a feeling you like a side here quite a lot, Cody, so I'll let you get to it.
You know what? I can't really add much. I'm on all the exact same points. Basically, Umar Nurmagomedov standing is going to be too fast for Brian Kelleher. Kelleher likes to set up his boxing, but he likes to sit down flat-footed on his punches, and Umar's just not there to be a target. I mean, the guy's got a very versatile kicking game where he'll throw question mark kicks, he'll throw crescent kicks, he'll throw inside low kicks, outside low kicks, go mid-range body. He can kind of do it all. And then the key here is going to be he's going to shoot in a takedown off of those kicks and then take Brian Kelleher down, and then that should be the fight. Kelleher's last 3 fights, it's really been the tale of who's got the better wrestling. His last fight against Kevin Kroom and Domingo Pilarte, well, he had the better wrestling. The fight before that with Ricky Simone, he did not have the better wrestling, and he just gets taken down repeatedly. Does he got a nasty guillotine choke? For sure. But, I mean, he's only subbed Ray Rodriguez and Odie Osborne in the last 3-4 years with it. So is he going to catch Umar Nurmagomedov? Although possible, because it is MMA. I would assume that that's a position that these Russian guys are working on tons, is don't put your head on the outside. Don't get snared up in one of these guillotines. So I just think it's going to be rinse and repeat. Now, I will give Kelleher the benefit of the doubt. His chin, rock solid. He'd been knocked out by John Lineker, but it was in the 3rd round, and it was in a fight he knew he was losing. There's like a minute and a half left, and he was like, time to go out on my shield, and just bum rushed forward. It was such a bad decision, but it showed the guy's got balls. I'm not going to hold that one against him. I think he's got a good chin. His submission game, I mean, Cheeto submitted him 5 years ago with an armbar, so let's throw that one out as well. The Montel Jackson one, again, it's like 4 years ago, but Montel Jackson didn't really have a refined grappling game at the time, and he subbed him with a Darce choke in the 1st round. So Umar could, in theory, put a pressure on him, bust him down, and then the later the fight goes, if he takes his back, he's got one hell of a grip on him, and he loves the rear naked choke. You could see it happening, but I would agree with you on your assessment that probably points decision. So I got Umar by points. I've got the fight goes the distance. Last but not least, if you're a little bit worried, because it is a big price tag because of the 14-month layoff, he hadn't fought in 13 months before the Sergey Morozov fight, right? Yeah. I mean, he fought Brian Gonzalez. He takes 13 months off. He smokes right through Morozov and looks awesome. And then he's coming off a 13-month layoff. I'm going to expect he's going to look awesome again. And he's only 26 years old, so some guys' last names are Nurmagomedov, like Saeed, right? He's not even related to Khabib.
Yeah.
And this guy is, right? So he's his cousin, but he's in the room with the best guys in the world again, just like Ulanbekov. When you're training at that level consistently and there's expectations from the guys, you generally tend to succeed. So I I think he's got I don't want to say easy money here, right? But he's clearly the pick of the week for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. I do quickly want to clear something up because I have seen a couple of these things in the comment section about my guy John, MMA Fox, that does the fight night shows. He is a dog hunter. He likes, saying that, some dogs may have value. Some dogs are a little bit more live than people are saying. I don't get why people are upset by him saying something like that, because every show that you go to will give you the same take in regards to the big favorite should be the favorite. He's going to go out there and smoke him. Let's not even consider Brian Kelleher as a live dog. And again, me and Cody are saying that right now as well, right? But to get the perspective of why an underdog could be live is never a bad thing. No. I don't understand why. There's nothing wrong with trying to make a case for an underdog. Not saying that they're going to win, but just to try to get you to think outside of the box, right? If everybody keeps thinking favorites are always going to win no matter what, then you're going to lose money on spots where the underdog ends up winning, right? Calvin Kattar, at the beginning of January, everybody was on Giga Chikadze that week, it seemed, and Calvin Kattar pulls off the upset. Even before that, last year, Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Kibos, another spot. Amanda Kibos was supposed to wipe the floor. I make the take for Marina Rodriguez. I think John made the take for Marina Rodriguez as well. Like, it pays off every now and then. I know, I get it. People only want winning tickets, but don't let the fact that we're trying to make a case for the underdog sway you to the point of taking the underdog. Go ahead and take the favorite, but hear us out as well in terms of why we think a certain underdog has some value or is more live than most people are making it seem to be. That's all it is. That is all it is. Hear us out. At the end of the day, it is you hitting the submit button on your tickets, on your bets, and you just take our information, put it up against yours. If you like what you still like, even after hearing what we have to say, make the bet. If we sway you, we sway you. But at the end of the day, you're the one that ends up making the bet. That's all I got to say. I can't get what the Fox hate as much anymore. How can you hate somebody for making a case for an underdog, right? At the end of the day, sure, the favorite's supposed to win, but try to hear out a different point of view as well, rather than everything you're going to hear from every MMA podcast this week. They're going to say the same thing. So to bring a different flavor and have somebody that's a little bit more dog-centric, I don't think it's as bad of a thing as most people are making it out to be. That's all I had to say. Got to get that off my chest, Cody. I apologize.
Yeah, sounds like you're fired up, dude. I didn't see any hate personally. I don't know. I didn't know if John was taking any flack, but yeah, again, it's good to talk about what's the underdog's path to victory, because you want to know how much faith do you have in these guys, right? Every underdog has a path for sure. But I will admit, I'm not mad. Who gives a shit about that? I will admit the one thing for me is that I can make a very valid case for every single underdog in this card. Easy, right? Well, maybe not Kelleher, but apparently John can. But other than that, it's like you can make a solid case for all the underdogs. So sometimes in my feed, it's the reason why I don't watch a whole lot of other cappers shows, is the more you just see shit in your feed, the more you start questioning your own stuff. The more you're like, this guy's got Kelleher. I got a lot of money under Nurmagomedov. So what am I missing? What am I missing? And then it messes with you a little bit. So maybe that's what they're mad about. I don't know. I've had pretty positive. I had to block a dude like 2 days ago, but outside of that, I've had really good interactions with people for the most part.
For sure. Again, we're all here to give you guys as much information as possible to make the most educated bets you guys can. And again, at the end of the day, it's you hitting the bet, submit bet, not us. But we're just trying to provide you guys with that information. All right, let's move on and get back to the show here. Next up, we got Marina Moroz going up against Maria Agapova. Minus 190 on Agapova, plus 160 on Marina Moroz. Cody, this is the first of two grudge matches that we have on the card.
This is the grudge match.
This is the grudge match. Yeah. This is the one that we're not even questioning whether it's fake or not, because we know how real it actually is. Obviously, Marina Moroz, last year, I believe she kind of put Agapova on blast. They used to be training partners at American Top Team, saying that she would come in high off her ass and, just kind of harassing and threatening people, looking at Maria Agapova. I can't say that she's talking shit, let's be honest. But again, they finally get to throw down here and finally kind of settle their beef inside the cage, which is the best way to do it, right? Like, imagine if this was two basketball players talking shit to each other. Oh, I'm going to drain this three in the face, bro. Okay, sure. Sick. Whereas in MMA, we're actually going to see them throw down and try to punch each other in the face and knock each other out. So I'm very much excited for it. I think there could be some recency bias on the Maria Agapova side, especially considering how she dispatched of Sabina Masvidal last time around. Marina Moroz, a solid fighter, right? She's decent. She's not like this a rollover that Agapova is going to have here. I think Agapova will still win. Don't get me wrong. I think she'll be successful with her movement, kind of striking from the outside. I think it could look similar to the Sabina Masvidal fight, where Moroz is the one kind of moving forward, throwing the straight shots down the middle. May get the clinch or takedown game going, but I do think it'll be the harder shots from Agapova that end up landing here. And I do think that she could maybe find another club in some situation, but I do think that this goes the full 15 minutes here. But Agapova will more than likely get a hand raised by landing the cleaner, crisper shots from the outside. So I'm looking at Agapova by decision, which is currently at plus 175. The over 2.5 is around minus 185 right now. I like both of those spots, man. Again, I think with the grudge match here, a lot of people are expecting it to end inside the distance. My only concern is Agapova seems like the type of fighter that will get rattled by emotions and may fight emotionally as well. That's what we saw in the Shanna Dobson fight. She saw herself as a massive favorite that she should go out there and absolutely mop the floor with Shanna Dobson, and unfortunately she didn't. She ended up getting, finished herself. So hopefully she learns something from that and she can kind of be a little bit more disciplined inside the cage, stick to the game plan, stick on the outside, stick those shots as best as possible, and take home a decision victory. But I wouldn't be surprised if this comes to the third round and she is having tremendous success in the first 2 rounds, that she starts to let it go a little bit more, looking for that finish to try to put that statement on. So this might be another one of those spots where we can look at fighter wins in the final round or via decision. Let me just quickly pull up what that is. Okay, it doesn't seem like there are any props for that specifically, but Agapova round 3 submission is plus 1700. Fight ends final round or goes to decision at plus 135 is not too bad of a prop either. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, listen, it's women's MMA. It's going to be a striking battle over the course of 15. Probably going to be close, probably going to be competitive, probably someone going to be sour at the end of it when they hear the judges' scorecard. So I would think Marina Moroz is definitely a live underdog. She's got to get her volume going. She's probably also got to try to get her wrestling going. But I just find it very difficult to get behind Agapova. Like, on one hand, she loses as a minus 1,500 favorite, which you just don't see in MMA. And then the next time out, she beats Sabina Masvidal, and it's like she's all of a sudden some great fighter. It's like, I don't know. Like you said, it could be recency bias, and that's what I'm leaning towards. ATT got to have lots of drama there, man. It sounds like all the great beefs come out of American Top Team. Like, I don't know what the hell the training environment's like, but pretty
it's
nuts.
The Florida air, Cody. It's the Florida air.
Yeah. So, okay. So on one hand, I think it's easy to say, well, Agapova has probably got the better volume. She's longer. She's rangier. She hits a little bit harder. She's going to stay to the outside. And the way she looked in her last fight against Masvidal, she had good cardio, which is an improvement. Physically, she's coming a long way. And she's just going to be aggressive and pounce on you. So she's the obvious pick. But what could potentially go wrong with this? So I'm going to play the contrarian on why do we not want to load up on Agapova. So a few things, right? But for Marina Moroz, right, if you're worried about is this fight going to go the distance, which, by the way, that's at the prop I'm going to go with as well. Just like you said, fight goes the distance, minus 155. Marina Moroz has had 7 fights in the last 7 years, and they've all gone 15 minutes. Like, she goes to decision, right? She's not going to knock you out. I don't think you're going to knock her out. Valerie Letourneau, 7 years ago, dropped her on her ass with a beautiful right hand. But I mean, she popped up, her eyes swelled all the way shut almost, and she fought on, right? She's got a pretty good chin. I'd expect that to be the case here. So durability she's got, the experience she's got. She's still at the main ATT facility in Coconut Creek, whereas Agapova's at ATT Sunrise. In fact, one of Moroz's top training partners for this camp has been Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and one of Agapova's top training partners for her camp was Luis Pena. So ATT Sunrise got to have a weird-ass vibe in the room there too, I bet. I just don't know what to make of it. Now, here's another thing. Marina Moroz, awful wrestling, right? I mean, she shows career in the UFC 18% takedown accuracy and was not known to have a wrestling game. But her last 2 fights, the Sabina Masvidal fight, she's on the hips the entire fight. Scores a takedown in the first, nice little takedown, push and pull off the cage, and then good top control. Second and third round, can't quite get the fight to the ground, but is committed to takedowns the entire way. It was a different game plan from her, but it was nice to see. Her next fight against Mara Buena Silva, she's looking for takedowns again, gets 2 of them. establishes top control, lands a whole lot of ground and pound, and for the first time in her UFC career, cracks over 100 significant strikes landed, coming in at 139. So she could have volume. She could have a wrestling advantage. She has an experience advantage. She likely is training in a better training room. This is all like live underdog stuff. So now the great thing here is I'm not on bookie beatdown. I'm not on dog or pass. I don't got to make a straight pick. I got to hit a prop. Fight goes the distance. Minus 155. Who cares who wins? Fight goes the distance. Minus 155.
I like it. Yeah, I'm right on board with you there. Hopefully Agapova doesn't fight super emotional and she can actually allow this thing to cross that 12.5-minute mark for us as well.
Can I just say one more thing? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last thing to throw in there is that Agapova's got shit takedown defense, right? Sabina Mazo shot 0, so of course she got 0. Don't have to talk about that one. Shayna Dobson went 2 for 2. Yeah. 2 for 2, Manpreet.
In round 1 as well, which is interesting because that was supposed to be Agapova's most dominant round, right?
Now, Tracy Cortez will give you a pass because she's a hell of a wrestler, right? So 4 takedowns there, it doesn't really matter. And then the only other fight is Hannah Cifers, and she never shot one single takedown. So can this girl stuff takedowns? I can't, with a clear conscience, look you in the face and tell you, yes, she can stuff takedowns. I don't know. And I don't want to be holding a minus 190 Agapova ticket or an Agapova by decision ticket and realize midway through the first, shit, she can't. So that's just the buyer's beware. And of course, women's MMA. So you probably already knew the buyer beware.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to the next fight, which is a light heavyweight fight between Nikolai Negumereanu going up against Kennedy Nzechukwu. In terms of odds, we're currently looking at minus 135 for Nzechukwu and plus 115 for Negumereanu. Interesting fight here, right? You got Negumereanu who's putting together a couple wins, not something a lot of people expected him to do, especially after losing his debut in dominant fashion to one Saperbek Safarov. But now here he is on a winning streak. Going up against Kennedy Nzechukwu, who obviously faltered to Da Un Jung last time around to some elbows in that first round. But I actually see this fight playing out similar to the Darko Stosic fight for Kennedy Nzechukwu, where we're going to see takedown attempts from Negumereanu. I believe Stosic landed 4 takedowns in that fight. But we see Kennedy Nzechukwu boasting an 80% takedown defense rate. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Paul Craig went 1 of 16 on takedowns and Danilo Marquez went 2 of 12 on takedowns. So yeah, take it with a little bit of grain of salt. But one thing that I found with Kennedy, he does work to get back to the feet pretty well. Even in clinch exchanges, you see him kind of digging the underhook almost immediately to turn his opponent around, push them up against the cage and get back into distance. And I feel like that's what he's going to be able to do here against Nikolai as well. Nikolai will be at a 5-inch height and reach disadvantage. And I think that size is going to play a huge factor here for the Kennedy Nzechukwu side. I'm seeing some love for the Nikolai side, thinking that he's going to be able to land takedowns and grind out Kennedy, but I think he's going to struggle to really get him down. And I think he's going to struggle to even keep him down. And then at range, I think we'll see Kennedy kind of touch him up from the outside. I think even if he wants to kind of engage in the clinch or the takedowns, he could be successful in doing that. But I think that this will look more than likely like that Darko Stosic fight, like I said, where Kennedy, I believe Stosic lost 2 points in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. But keeping Kennedy, throwing strikes, staying active from the outside, I think that's going to be his best way to win this fight. I'm looking at the over 1.5, which is minus 160. Again, I see this kind of being slow paced with a lot of clinching and grappling exchanges, which should allow this to cross that 7.5-minute mark. If you want to get ballsy, fight starts round 3 plus 100. I don't think that's a bad spot either. But even Kennedy and Nzechukwu to win via decision is currently sitting at plus 400. I think there's tremendous amount of value there, man. Negumereanu has shown solid durability, and Kennedy, it doesn't seem like he has the craziest power on his shots, but he does a good enough job in terms of establishing his dominance. And I feel like maybe halfway through this fight, Negumereanu is going to start to respect him a little bit too much, and we see the pace of this fight really start to go down. So I'd like Kennedy by decision at plus 400 is just screaming my name, though. How do you see this one going down?
And I love me and my decision props. I got a feeling Kennedy's going to topple him over and TKO him at some point. I don't even mind such a small little sprinkle because you guys like to talk about those long shot ones every once in a while. But Kennedy round 3 TKO, a plus 1,000, right? I just got a feeling that he's going to keep putting pressure on Negumereanu, break him down, maybe hurt him late. So here's kind of the theory behind it, right? And you mentioned you thought Negumereanu was going to try to wrestle him because, of course, Stoicic was able to take him down. Daniil Marquez is able to take him down. Maybe not so fast. His UFC debut against Safarov, he never shot one single takedown. In fact, he got taken down 3 times, and his wrestling looked absolutely abysmal.
Atrocious.
Then you didn't see him for 3.5 years. Then he comes back against Oleksiejczuk, where he went 1 for 5 in takedowns. Not necessarily impressive. But beyond that, dude, Oleksiejczuk outstruck him 102-71. Okay? Almost everything that Oleksiejczuk threw landed, and it landed flush, and it landed flush right on the chin. Now, keep in mind, Oleksiejczuk has a 74-inch reach, and Negumereanu has actually got a 78-inch reach. They got a 4-inch reach advantage on Kmore, and yet he got boxed up until Kmore gassed out. Kennedy has an 83-inch reach. He's got a 9-inch reach advantage on Kmore. That's how much longer it is. You don't think this guy's going to touch you up from the outside? You've got a problem on your hands. And then beyond that, his fight with Ike Villanueva, he actually did shoot one takedown, and he didn't get it. So I don't think his wrestling shit. I don't think it is. I think he's the kind of guy that's tough, and that'll stand in the pocket, and will try to come forward and club you. But I don't know that's enough. Kennedy's 6'5". He's a big boy. He looked awful against Dong Jung. I didn't expect him to get knocked out. I didn't expect to get knocked out like that. First time he's ever been knocked out. So am I a little bit worried that he might be a little bit fragile? He could have a chin issue? Yes. But Dong Jung's a talented fighter, so I'm inclined to give him an ever so slight pass. When you look at his fights that, he's looking half decent in, it's almost just volume until you topple over and break. Danilo did his best to hold on to the guy, but when he got tired of doing that, he gets knocked out. Carlos Ulberg hit him like 140 significant strikes, and when that failed to put him over, he knocks him out. You look at a lot of his regional show fights, a very limited level of competition, but the guy's just so big, I think he's going to hurt you when he hits you. And even though he's 29, he's not a young prospect, being at Fortis MMA, they're going to be able to help develop this guy and help him find his range. And he's in the big octagon here. It's not the small little apex. It's going to be tougher for Negumereanu to track him down and chase him for the extent of 15 minutes while getting punched in the face by a guy of that size. So I'm going to go ahead and say Kenny's the first guy to take him out. And you can get decent prop money on the TKO, but I got some weird feeling that he probably takes him out in the third. And that plus 1,000, I'd be happy with that.
That's my kind of play right there. Yeah. Cody. So, I'm glad that you shouted that one. I could see that absolutely happening as well. So, I'm looking forward to it. But again, that over 1.5 at minus 160-ish, I don't think that's a bad look either, as this will more than likely get dragged late. If Negumereanu can survive, though, again, hopefully it's after the 7.5 minute mark, but then hopefully Kennedy can take over after that. All right, let's go over this next fight now because I'm very excited about this one. It's a strawweight bout between Marina Rodriguez against Yan Xiaonan. Marina Rodriguez coming off of 2 main event slots. Now they bury her on the prelims, which I just don't understand, because if she wins this fight, it's you could possibly set her up for a title shot in the very near future, right? She has a decent winning streak going on and some big main event wins. And now to have a win over Yan Xiaonan would obviously, be very good for her. But I don't really understand this line, to be honest. Minus 275 for Rodriguez, plus 210 on the Chinese fighter Yan Xiaonan. Now, I do think that there's a ton of recency bias on this, right? With like I said on the Rodriguez side, she's coming off of 2 dominant main event victories over Michelle Watterson and Mackenzie Dern, whereas on the flip side with Yan Xiaonan going into the Carla Esparza fight as a favorite, she obviously gets finished by Carla Esparza in a completely different way than Rodriguez fights, right? That fight mainly took place on the ground with Carla landing takedowns almost at will and just punishing from on top. And I think a lot of people are overreacting to that. More often than not, we see Rodriguez go out there and strike exactly what Yan Xiaonan does as well. And I feel like if this is a 50-minute kickboxing match, the odds are going to look a lot closer than minus 275, right? I think people are forgetting how lethal Yan is as well. She's a very good striker. She's a potent striker. She has a ton of power behind her strikes as well. And I think it's been a couple training camps now that she's aligned herself with Team Alpha Male, which could only mean good things for hopefully her grappling, right? Dealing with somebody's grappling like Carla Esparza is one thing. Carla Esparza has been a lifetime wrestler, but dealing with other fighters like Marina Rodriguez, who's not a potent grappler, maybe it's going to help her out in that aspect. But again, I do think this fight's going to play out pretty close. I do think we actually see it go the full 15 minutes, and obviously the fight goes to decision. It's currently hanging at minus 225, but I'm kind of feeling the Yan Xiaonan side. We haven't really seen Rodriguez go up against another like decent striker, right? I think Tisha Torres is probably the best striker that we've seen Marina Rodriguez face up until this point. Whereas we've seen, Yan Xiaonan go up against women like Angela Hill and Karolina Kovacevic, obviously completely different strikers compared to what Marina Rodriguez is, but they're still strikers in a sense, right? Whereas Rodriguez is fighting these other women that aren't as potent in the striking realm. Yan Xiaonan will be the first legitimate striker that she's facing, in my opinion. And we haven't seen how she deals with somebody like that. She could still go out there and get the better of her. Don't get me wrong. That is absolutely on the table. But I think people are just disregarding Yan Xiaonan just due to that last fight against Carla Esparza. So I do think that we'll see a very competitive fight here. I'd be surprised if you see grappling from either side. If Marina Rodriguez goes out there and grapples right off the bat, then yeah, I don't feel too good about that plus 220 on the Yan Xiaonan side. But how often has she actually gone out there and pursued that type of game plan? Again, every fight is a different puzzle. Maybe she decides to bring that piece into this puzzle to make it an easier fight for her. But I'm interested to see how Yan Xiaonan potentially has prepared for that approach if that's what she takes. But Yan Xiaonan to win via decision is plus 300. But even her money line, I think, is a little bit of a steal. This fight's going to be much closer than the odds suggest. I do like the Yan Xiaonan side. I'd be surprised if there's a finish. I'd be surprised if there's grappling. And if it goes the way that I'm expecting it to go, I like my plus 300 decision line on Yan Xiaonan and even the money line at plus 220. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah. Again, it's another case where, to me, it's women's MMA. It's going to be a kickboxing match for 15 minutes, and it's going to be probably a closely contested fight. So I don't know how much overexposure you want in on it. And with Marina Rodriguez, I feel like she hits harder than Yan. Yan might have slightly better volume, but I don't. With Marina Rodriguez, clearly her problem is the grappling, right? She's got subpar takedown defense. If you take her down, she spends a little too much time off her back, and she gives time away. With Yan, I don't know that she can actually wrestle. Like the Karolina Kovacevic fight's the only time that she really uses that wrestling, and
I think it's because Karolina initiated it.
She's kind of half pulling guard. Like she's half just, here, take me down because I don't want to strike anymore. So let's fall over to our back. And that's where this is going to spend time. Yeah. Generally, she has her way against these opponents. She'll go out there and she'll back them up. She throws decent volume, but it's almost like pint-sized portion because of the talent that she's fighting. I can't say with a straight face that Rodriguez wouldn't do the same thing when you're fighting Karolina Kovacevic. Angela Hill was probably her best fight, but for someone, does she have power? She went 6 straight fights in the UFC, all decision. All of her wins, all 6 of them decision, gets smashed by Carla Esparza. But Kaylee Curran, that's soft, right? Yeah. Viviane Pereira, she went 2-2 in the UFC and fanned out. Suri Kondo, very, very soft, right? Angela Hill, that's a solid victory. Karolina Kovacevic, soft. Claudia was at the end of her run. It's not to discredit her level of talent of opponents. I would just say this is a step up for her. Meanwhile, with Rodriguez, you mentioned you didn't think that she fought like any, real big name strikers, but Michelle Waterson's a solid striker. She's able to fight her pretty competitive all the way at the 25 minutes, get the decision. Tisha Torres, not only, as you alluded to, good striker, best striker she's probably fought. She smoked Tisha Torres. That fight was not competitive. She absolutely kicked the crap out of Torres. And Torres you never really see her get outclassed like that in the striking department. So I think there's stuff that you can like from her. Her last 2 fights were 25 minutes. This one's only 15. So maybe she's going to be able to push her foot on the gas a little bit. And if she stuffs the takedowns, lands the more meaningful shots, she edges this thing out. But at the kind of line that it's currently sitting at, yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame Hunter Man if you're watching. Shout out Hunter Man. It's not a bad dog pick whatsoever. Probably going to be close. Probably going to be competitive. And we've seen this the last 2 weeks, right? Last week, everyone's upset about Kim and Cachoeira because it's a close kickboxing match for 15 minutes that could go either way. And the week before that, they're upset with the Diana Balbita fight. But you know something? It's a close kickboxing match for 15 minutes, and women's MMA can go either way. Yeah. So that's what you're getting here. You're not far off on thinking the dog has a chance. I think you're absolutely right. My official pick would be Marina Rodriguez. I still think she does get the job done. I just don't feel like super confident about it.
Yeah, shout out to Mbe as well, saying that Yan should have stopped Karolina. I thought they were going to stop that fight because I think she ruptured her tear duct or something. If you remember that fight where Karolina had an eye patch after the fight and put out one of the saddest videos afterwards that almost made me shed a tear because of how heartbroken she was about that loss. But I had I think it was a plus 800 ticket on Yan Xiaonan to win via TKO that night. And good God, was it so close. They should have stopped that fucking fight.
Yeah, you're right about that. It was a beating.
All right, let's move on to the next fight here, and it is the prelim headliner. Very much looking forward to this one. It's a lightweight fight between Jalen Turner and Jamie Mullarkey. We got minus 155 on Jalen Turner, who's been taking a ton of love on the money line because he was closer to evens, or at least closer to minus 120 earlier in the week. On the flip side for Jamie Mullarkey, we got plus 135. Very fun fight here between two developing guys who have more often than not been overlooked, right? Jalen Turner in his last fight against Uros Medic was the underdog. Everybody sipping that Uros Medic juice, obviously with the way he was able to starch Alan Cruz in his UFC debut, and then obviously won his Contender Series fight the way that he won. But it's fade Alaska FC till we die, Cody. And I don't care if I lost that money on Alan Cruz. I was going to get it back on Jalen Turner, and I'm glad I ended up doing that here. Now he's going up against Jamie Mullarkey, who's really coming into his own as well, right? He had that crazy fight with Brad Riddell in his UFC debut way back at, I think it was the Izzy and Anderson card way back in the day, or it could have been the Izzy and Robert Whittaker card. Crazy fight back and forth, and Brad Riddell ends up picking up the victory that night. But since then, Jamie Mullarkey, man, goes out there, knocks out Kama Worthy in the first round, and then follows that up by knocking out Devontae Smith in the second round. Now he's going up against Jalen Turner. I think Turner is the better striker from the outside. Obviously, he's going to be very lengthy in this fight. He does a decent job in terms of maintaining his distance. His jiu-jitsu is obviously getting much better. Obviously, he showed it off in that Roche Medic fight. I think that I'm seeing a lot of people draw comparisons to the Matt Frevola fight for Jalen Turner, saying that if Matt Frevola can get this guy continuously over and over again, more than likely Jamie Mullarkey should be able to do the same thing. But I think people are failing to recognize how good the wrestling on Matt Frevola actually is, man. That's a guy that continuously gets underrated. And I think that if people are trying to compare the wrestling game of Mullarkey and Frevola, I think they're going to be sadly mistaken this weekend, as I don't think that Mullarkey will have that much success with it. He might be able to land one or two takedowns, but I don't think it's going to be anything that changes the tide of this fight. I like Turner here. I do think he kind of pieces up Jamie Mullarkey from outside. Mullarkey, like I said, very durable, very tough to put this guy away. And I think his last KO loss, his second last KO loss actually came to Alexander Volkanovski about 6 years ago. He did lose another fight after that via elbows, but since then his durability has been able to hold up. I don't know if Jalen Turner has that crazy one-punch knockout power that it's going to require to put out a guy like Jamie Mullarkey. So I do see this fight actually going the distance, man. I think over 1.5, minus 155. By the way, I got to say, this is probably the first time I've picked these many overs and these many fights to go to decision on any episode that we've done together, Cody. But I do see this fight going over 1.5 at minus 155. I like that fight to go to decision plus 150. Don't mind that either. But Turner by decision plus 300 would be my method of victory prop here. How do you see this one going down, bro?
Yeah, dude. And you know what? Not only hitting all these overs, but for the first time ever, I'm not liking the overs. I'm not liking the overs. I know. Dude, I know. I got Jamie Mullarkey by TKO plus 400.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So again, when you look at Jalen Turner, right, he's on this good little run right now. He is young and improving, and I think he's going to be a good talent. He might have the higher upside later down the road, but for the time being, these are his fights in the UFC. Vicente Luque, way too early. Takes it on short notice, his debut. Don't bother, right? Kalen Potter, bum. He beats him up. Matt Frevola, which we'll talk about, he gives up 4 takedowns. He got taken down by Frevola. You mentioned Frevola as a wrestler. Josh Kulabau, that's not a meaningful win to me. Brock Weaver, it's not a meaningful win to me. Uros Medic, these are not good wins. These are contender series guys. These are guys that shouldn't be in the UFC, but they need to use a roster spot. So that's why they're there. So he's looked impressive against them. I just don't know. I think that the recency bias. Man, look how good he looks against Uros Medic. Man, look how good he looked against Brock Weaver. Can't really buy that much into it. Jamie Mullarkey, meanwhile, he's picking up some solid victories. He's not fought this exact type of opponent, but he kind of has, right? Kama Worthy's a heavy hitter, right? Good striker, likes to stay to the outside. He clips him, he knocks him out. Devontae Smith, it's the same thing. He's a big hitter, stays to the outside. You need to grind on him. You need to make sure he doesn't clip you and knock you out. Devontae clips Mullarkey a bunch of times, hurts him a bunch of times, but can't put him away. Mullarkey perseveres, is able to get the takedown. And from there, I mean, he, like I mentioned on the Mullarkey breakdown, he breaks his spirit and then puts him away in the second. This guy's got infinite cardio. Well, I wouldn't say infinite cardio. He looked like he was slowing down against Faraz Ayam, but he's still just making improvements. He himself is only 27 years old, 28 years old. He's getting better. And you mentioned that he got knocked out by Alexander Volkanovski 6 years ago. Well, that loss introduces him to Alexander Volkanovski. Then he befriends Alexander Volkanovski. And now he's one of Alexander Volkanovski's chief training partners. All the guy does is grind. All the guy does is wrestle. And similar to a poor man's version of Volkanovski, that's what he does. He'll take a couple punches in the face, get a hold of you, track you down, and break you down. And I think that's what he'll do against Jalen Turner. You mentioned Frivola can get the wrestling going because he's a good wrestler, but maybe not so Mullarkey. To be honest, I think the wrestling's pretty comparable. But here's the key difference. Matt Frivola is 5'9". He's really not all that big. Jamie Mullarkey's 6 feet tall. It doesn't look like much compared to 6'3" Jalen Turner, but as far as 155-pounders go, what the fuck? Ludovic Klein's 5'7", fights in this division. Right? His opponent's 5'9", fights in this division. These guys are 6'3" and 6 foot. They're big boys. But I think Turner's natural size advantage that he has on a lot of guys won't be there against Mullarkey. And Mullarkey's strong in the clinch, man. He picked up Devontae Smith and dumped him, right? That's what he's going to have to do here. Weather the early storm, get a hold of him, peel him to the ground, put a beating on him. And I think once he puts that beating on him, tires him out, puts him in a bad position, I think he does put him away. So, again, these are sprinkle kind of things. You know, I'm not putting a large chunk of my bankroll on this, but plus 400, like shit, that's the way I'm going. And of course, I think Jamie Mullarkey is a live underdog.
Yeah, I don't argue with that, man. The guy, again, like I kicked off the breakdown with Mullarkey and Turner. They're both underrated guys, people that we just keep overlooking, right? And as SKD is saying in the chat here, arguably won the ZM fight. I agree. I thought he did.
I thought he did. Bullshit decision. But learning experience, you learn from that shit. And then his next 2 fights after that, he's got more of a sense of urgency. Because the Zion fight, there's not a whole lot of ground and pound. Good wrestling, not a whole lot of damage. That's why Zion sneaks it on the scorecards, because he was punching. But since then, it's like turbo mode. And he's one of these guys that, like a Nate Landwehr, like a Darren Elkins, it's like, you better hope you knock him out or submit him, because otherwise he's coming at you for 15 full minutes. That's what I like about him. Guys that are going to fight for your dollar. Mullarkey will fight for my dollar, or he'll get KO'd in the first round. But if he doesn't, I'm going to like where we stand.
I also don't mind the placement of this fight as a prelim headliner, because I do think it will produce fireworks at times and people will be definitely entertained by it. All right, that is a wrap on the prelims. Once again, shout out to all the sponsors. Well, first and foremost, shout out to the most important sponsors, and that's you guys, the 130 live viewers that we currently have. Make sure you guys show the All-Stars some love for bringing us onto their team. Hit that like and subscribe on the video below to let them know that you guys appreciate us on their platform. And then secondly, let's shout out some of the sponsors here. CloudBet, first and foremost, the first ever crypto sports book in the world. They will match your initial deposit up to 100%. So make sure you guys go check them out. They have fast withdrawals, low margins, high limits. Trust me, that's everything you want to hear if you're looking for a legitimate sports book. And if you don't have access to CloudBet, make sure you guys go check out BOVADA. They'll match your initial deposit up to $250. Links are in the description below. Hit those links, show them some love, and in turn, you'll be showing us some love as well. We appreciate you guys. All right, let's get to the main card here, Cody. First up, we got a heavyweight scrap between Sergey Spivak and Greg Hardy. This was a fight that was supposed to go down, I believe, last month. Yeah, on UFC 270. That was the night that Oleksiejczuk was supposed to fight Greg Hardy. Oleksiejczuk forced to pull out, in steps Sergey Spivak, and before the fight could even happen, Greg Hardy mutilates his finger or something, has a very nasty cut on his finger, and that forces the fight to get pushed back just over a month and a half later. But I'm glad they kept the fight together, because I feel like this is a damn good spot for Spivak to go out there and do what a minus 210 or even what a minus 400 should go out there and do. I like Spivak in this spot. I do think that he'll be able to enjoy the early onslaught here from Greg Hardy. I know a lot of people are bringing up the Walt Harris fight. I'm going to throw that up to being Sergey Spivak's UFC debut, give him the UFC jitters, flying from wherever the fuck he was in Romania to Canada, Ottawa specifically, having your debut against a big guy like Walt Harris. Obviously wasn't going to go with the greatest for him that night. And then obviously the next fight that he ends up losing by knockout was the Tom Aspinall fight. But man, I don't know if you remember that finishing sequence, Cody, but it was nasty. They were in the clinch. You see Tom Aspinall throw up a knee, or I think it was a kick or something. You see Spivak kind of react to it, and as he's reacting to it, Aspinall lands this beautiful elbow right over the top and absolutely plants him on his butt, and that's where he's able to follow up and get the finish. Is Greg Hardy going to be smart enough to do something like that? I don't know. I just think he goes out there and throws heavy haymakers and hopes for the best. But let's look at it a little bit closer, man. So The last time he's like legit knocked somebody out, well, obviously was the Maurice Green fight in October of 2020. That's a power jab to ground and pound. But we know Maurice Green, right, Cody? We know which Maurice Green we're talking about. Okay, now let's keep going back. Before that, the last KO victory he had was hammer fist to Juan Adam 45 seconds into that fight. The one before that, Dmitry Smolyakov, ground and pound victory on that. All of these, what I'm trying to get at, the most of these knockout victories are coming from ground and pound from on top, right? It's not really him dropping these guys. It's him, hitting them with the shot, getting them to the ground, and then getting his ground and pound off. Spivak, in my opinion, has much better than wrestling than what Greg Hardy's going to bring to the table. And I feel like people are forgetting, Sergey Spivak's performance against Tai Tuivasa, another heavy hitter he's able to get to the ground and eventually find a submission against. I do think that Spivak will be a little bit smarter than what we saw against the Tom Aspinall fight, a fight that he took also on very short notice. This one, actually, he has a little bit more time to prepare for it. And also, now being pretty much full-time out of Las Vegas, the guy's already there. It's not like he has any travel or anything to do. I think people are exaggerating Spivak's durability issues because of the Aspinall fight, but I'd be surprised if Greg Hardy is able to find a similar kind of knockout as what Tom Aspinall was able to produce that night. I think Greg Hardy will probably blow his load in the first round here, and then I think we'll see Spivak start to take over in that second round, get this fight to the ground, and find a submission more than likely in that second round. So I'm going Spivak inside the distance, which currently sits at plus 120, specifically Spivak in round 2, which plays plus 500. And if you want to get even juicier, we can go Spivak via submission in round 2, pays plus 1,000. That, Cody, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, I would have to go the other way on this one. I think it's more closer to a dog or pass. Like, the fights that make you the most worried are the women's MMA bouts and these middling heavyweights, because they're two big boys and anything could theoretically happen. So, yeah, we'll just debate a couple of the points, I suppose. Number one being that let's talk about Spivak's durability issue. Does he, in fact, have a durability issue? Yeah, who knows, right? But the Walt Harris fight, you got to mention it. It did get knocked out in 50 seconds. Why you got to mention it is that Walt Harris is a very explosive power puncher who's capable of closing the gap really fast and knocking you out. Has bad cardio, right? But is a very quick 3 to 5 minute fighter. That's the kind of guy that beats him, right? Tai Tuivasa, that's the outlier. As you say, well, let's give Spivak a pass because it's his debut. That's a different version of Tai. He can't wrestle. He's not in shape. He's not training hard. It's a different guy altogether. But the Carlos Felipe is slow and lumbering, right? Jared Vandera is slow and lumbering. Oleksiej Olenek is slow and lumbering. The next time he fights a guy that is one of these explosive, heavy-hitting guys that's going to come at you hard for 3 to 5 minutes, Tom Aspinall. And he elbows him, and then he TKOs him with ground strikes, right? Like you're saying with Greg Hardy. Well, Greg Hardy would have to TKO him by ground and pound on the ground. Dude, if you're discombobulated and you're out of it because you just got punched in the head and you have no idea where you're at, little ground and pound's all you got to do. So I think he could go out there and put him down. Now, beyond that, Aspinall knocks him out. Sure, it's Tom Aspinall. Walt Harris knocks him out. Sure, it's Walt Harris. Let's talk about the Oleksiej Olenek fight, because I had a lot of money on Sergey Spivak in that Oleksiej Olenek fight. He got outstruck in the first round. He lost the first round to Oleksiej Olenek, getting outstruck 25-23 against a 45-year-old man who has no striking, 4 career knockouts, despite like 65 wins. Holy shit, dude. Spivak is not a striker. When he runs into strikers, which you saw his very next fight against Tom Aspinall, it doesn't end up very well for him. Now, with Greg Hardy, you can say, wow, when was the last time he knocked out anybody? Maurice Green? Maurice Green's a clown show. Juan Adams? Well, Juan Adams. Dmitry Smolyakov? Oh, man, he must be the worst heavyweight in the division, which I agree, probably was the worst heavyweight in the division. Dude, his last fight, he's like inches away from knocking Tai Tuivasa out. Like, this guy can hit. He's big. He's 6'5". He's got an 80-plus inch reach. And beyond that, he's very green in MMA still. He's only got 10 pro fights. Like, he's still figuring it out. But against Marcin Tybura, best he's ever looked for the first round. Everything he's throwing is landing. Looks real crisp. Looks real good. Gasses out. Asthma kicks in after the first. He tires himself out. That last fight against Tai Tuivasa, he hits Tai. He hurts him. His striking looks on point. He gets a little over-aggressive when he walks into a counter hook. And you don't want to walk into a counter hook from Tai Tuivasa, right? So it's not like he's necessarily had just straight up bad results. It's like you do see a little bit of glimmer and then eventually a bad result. But Marcin Tybura is a top guy. Tai Tuivasa is a top guy. Spivak needs to tire him out, take him in the second round, get his wrestling going. But he's going to have to take some damage prior to that. And for that reason, I would say I would say Greg Hardy's probably a live underdog. I think the under 2.5 at -160 pretty much covers it both sides. Either Greg Hardy's going to catch him and knock him out in the first, or he's not. Spivak's probably going to secure a takedown in the second, overwhelm him with ground and pound, put him either near the end of the second or early into the third round. You're good on your under 2.5, right? But low key, and especially if you like to play those, like you were talking about earlier, they're different kind of props, right? Hardy in round 1 or 2 is plus 330. Like, it's like, shit, you guys don't think he's going to come out here? He knows he's asthmatic. You don't think he's going to come out here and swing caution to the wind? Like, he trains with some of the best guys. He was at ATT, moved over to Sanford, and now he's at like a private little camp that includes Rashad Evans and Dean Thomas.
It's apparently the resurgence of Black Zillions, from what I've heard.
Pretty dope, dude. There's good guys in the room. Jorge Santiago, like you're in good company. So I almost just want to, it's not that I'm saying don't pick Sergey Spivak. I'm saying this is the type of card. This is a difficult card this week. You know the top couple guys you want, right? You know your Umar's at the top. You know Covington's likely at the top. You know there's a couple other good picks. But then after that, dude, it falls off pretty rapidly. And you get some of these 2-1 favorites. Agapova is a 2-1 favorite, but I don't like it. Spivak's a 2-1 favorite, but I don't like it. Marina Rodriguez, 2-1 favorite. But as you're talking about, and you got me half convinced, dude, don't really like it. Those are going to be the apple pie shitters. Those ones are going to catch us, right? Hopefully Tagir's not one of them. He could save me on the value side of things. But like that's what's going to blow this thing wide open for us. And I'm just trying to mitigate the damage. So got a feeling that Greg Hardy's a live underdog, might be able to catch him. As far as prop, Greg Hardy by knockout, or if you can get him like that first or second round, plus 330, it's a pretty good price tag.
Even Greg Hardy round 1 KO plus 650. I don't think that's a bad line as well.
Dude, Spivak was getting outstruck by Oleksiejczuk.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I mention that? That is a scary thought. But we'll see, because he's still young and he could figure it out.
Yeah, one of the ways I actually played it on Bodog was I did take Hardy round 1 KO and then round 2 Spivak sub and KO, round 3 sub and KO. So I feel like if I don't come out with money in that fight, then it's just like, you know, Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis going the distance type of situation.
right. Yeah. Hardy won the distance with Volkov. Isn't that crazy to think about in hindsight? Like,
well somebody brought it up in the comment section here. Shout out to them as well. Hardy can go 15 minutes if he can put on a tactical striking battle, right? Where there's not much energy being exerted. But I feel at a certain point, Spivak is going to get the grappling going, and that's going to force Hardy to work, and that's going to force Hardy to gas out, which is why I like him in second or third round. I'm thinking second, though. I think by the second round, Spivak will have engaged in the grappling enough to suck out that energy of Greg Hardy and eventually finish him in the second round. So fight doesn't go to decision, though. Minus 225, that seems a little low. That seems like it's trying to trap us or something, but hopefully it's not a trap. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Kevin Holland making his UFC welterweight debut, going up against Cowboy Oliveira. In terms of odds, we're currently looking at minus 335 for Kevin Holland, plus 260 the return on Cowboy Oliveira. Man, it's so hard to back Cowboy Oliveira nowadays, man. I was trying to think of an argument that I could make as to why him at plus 260 is a solid bet. But it's hard. It's very much hard, man. There's times where you see him like in critical spots and critical moments where he should have the advantage, kind of give up the advantage and allow his opponent to kind of take advantage of those situations. Specifically, one that I'm talking about is the Nico Price fight, where I felt it was 1-1 going into that third round. And there was this like crucial moment where they're battling for position to get on top or even to get position up against the cage. And it seemed like Cowboy just didn't have it in the gas tank. He didn't have the will. He didn't have the determination. And we see Nico Price end up on top and end up riding out that round and winning that fight via decision. With Kevin Holland, on the other hand, like we're supposed to be believing that he's this takedown defense wizard now, right? But we haven't really seen much of him since he's had to deal with those takedown issues. Obviously, we saw Vettori have success, Brunson have success. Kyle Dawkins got him down 1 on 5 attempts, but if I'm not mistaken, that one attempt was after that inadvertent headbutt, which ultimately made the fight go to a no contest. But we could see it tested here. Right now, he's going down to 170. He's going to be much bigger than a lot of these guys. He is still very lanky, so I'm not sure how much his strength will actually translate down a weight class. And it's not like hasn't fought at 170 in the past. This is the first time he's doing it in the UFC. But the last time we saw him fight at 170, I think was about 5 years ago against Curtis Millender, where he actually ended up losing a decision that night, headlining an LFA card. here against Cowboy Oliveira, he will have the striking advantage. I think he'll use his range very well in terms of just picking apart Cowboy Oliveira from the outside, and he could find a finish at some point in this fight. I do think it'll be a little bit later, because I wouldn't be surprised to see Alex Oliveira go out there and try to implement a grapple-heavy game plan. But if he does, I just don't think he has the gas tank nor the cardio to implement that over 15 minutes. Kevin Holland's hard to put away, right? Obviously, Kyle Dawkins was able to get him out of there, but I feel like Kyle Dawkins is, a legit black belt compared to what Cowboy Oliveira brings to the table. And, mix into the fact that we had Holland already rocked from that headbutt. Obviously, Kyle Dawkins is going to be able to get the submission. But if Cowboy Oliveira finishes him here, I'd be very surprised. I do like Kevin Holland here. I was questioning the minus 300 price tag on him earlier this week, but after running the tape, it makes sense, man. He should go out there, find that kill shot on Cowboy Oliveira, whether it's by KO or a club and sub situation. I do think he ends up getting the finish. So Holland inside the distance, minus 115. I know you have a nice juicy prop you want to drop on this fight, so please do drop it for us, my man.
Hell yeah, man. I'm getting tunnel vision on this one. I really like Kevin Holland. I think that things are just matching up for him real solid here. So, listen, what's the guy's problem? Is wrestling. We all know it. The guy can't wrestle, right? But other than that, he's got the goods. I mean, he's got pretty good cardio. It's very difficult to do anything. Try going for a run and talk to somebody as you're running. Difficult, dude. Difficult. You got to rely on, like, breathing techniques and stuff. No, not this guy. He just talks shit the entire time. He fights you the entire time. He's fought 5 rounds. He seems pretty good. Cardio. His durability, pretty good. Guy's got a pretty good chin on him. Unless it's a headbutt. His chin can take a hell of a crack. He's BJJ black belt. Well, it's a phony BJJ black belt because he doesn't do nothing off his back when he's getting taken down. We'll tell that to Jacare Souza because he had a very active guard against Jacare and ends up knocking him out with hammer fists off his back. He's dangerous. He just can't wrestle, right? But Derek Brunson's a top 5 contender. Guy that wrestled collegiately, solid wrestler. 6 takedowns against him. Not a good look. But at least it's a guy that knows how to wrestle at a high level. Marvin Vettori, not quite as good of a wrestler. 11 takedowns. Really didn't like that fight. It's a bad look. So at this point, Kevin Holland realizes, you know what? I got to learn how to wrestle. And if you were in Texas and you were, between 100 and, well, he's fighting at 205 at the time, 205, 185. You needed somebody in that range in Texas to show you how to wrestle better than anybody. Who would you go to? Johnny Hendricks, because he's about 300 pounds right now, and the fucking guy can wrestle, right? When he came out against the Kyle Daukaus fight, I thought he looked vastly improved. He's talking shit to Daniel Cormier during the fight, being like, whoa, stop that one. It's like, oh my God. He's still talking shit, and he's stuffing takedowns. Daukaus goes 1 for 5 on takedowns, and like you said, one of them is probably caused due to the headbutt. Looked pretty good. Besides that, let's say he does get taken down. His get-up game is very good. That's why Marvin Vettori needed to take him down 11 times. That's why Brunson needed to take him down 6 times. When he gets taken down, he usually scrambles and gets back up to his feet. Alex Oliveira hasn't completed more than 1 takedown against an opponent in like 4 years. It was the Nicholas Dalby fight, which, by the way, he gassed out trying to wrestle too hard and lost. So him wrestling all night is not a viable game plan, and that's really the only hole for Kevin Holland that we can see at this point. On top of that, Holland's dropping down to 170 pounds. Not going to be that tough of a weight cut because he was weighing in at like 182, 183. So if he makes 170, he's an even bigger guy for Cowboy Oliveira to have to wrestle around. Then this is what sealed it for me, really. So he fights Kyle Daukaus, and his wrestling looks way better. It's a no contest. They hand him the mic. What are you going to do after this? And he basically makes a joke of like, I guess I'll go back to Hendrickstan. Basically a joke, Dagestan, Johnny Hendricks, going back to Hendrickstan. Got a good laugh out of it. Then he takes this Fury Pro grappling match against Cody Hamra, right? So Cody Hamra wrestled D1 at North Carolina, University of North Carolina. He's a D1 All-American. He's Damian Maia's wrestling coach. And Damian Maia's got 78 recorded takedowns in the UFC. Wow. Damian Maia, for the record, has taken down Bilal Muhammad once, Gilbert Burns twice. He managed to take down a big juice guy like Lyman Good, Antonio Rocco Martin. He successfully took down George Masvidal, everybody's hero, 4 times. That's a little foreshadowing for the main event, what Colby Covington's going to do. He took down Gunnar Nelson twice. He took down Neil Magny twice. He took down Ryan Flair, who had wrestled pretty high level, 5 times. Alexander Yakovlev, Russian Sambo champion, took him down twice. Rory McDonald, he knows how to wrestle. No, took him down twice. Jake Shields, collegiate wrestler, BJJ black belt, took him down 3 times. John Fitch knows how to wrestle, right? No. Damian Maia took him down 7 times. Rick Story, Dong Yun Kim, Chris Weidman, he takes them all down. Cody Hamra, He's a fucking good wrestler. Cody Hammer was having a lot of trouble taking down Kevin Holland. I was shocked, and I bet it. I don't know why I bet pro grappling, but I was certain that he would just take him down and lie on top of him. Easy money, right? Kevin Holland started pulling guard at one point because he was just like, well, you can't take me down and this is getting boring, so let's just grapple on the ground. Like, it was good stuff, man. Him dropping down to 170, improved wrestling, better cardio, better pace. All of that's good news. Cowboy Oliveira's 3-fight losing streak. He's gassed out in all 3 of them. He's not looked himself. Him at 170, best days are behind him because he was better at 55, let's be honest. Best days are behind him. Got 9 kids to feed. Like, that's got to be a problem on its own. And then last but not least is what we're getting at. What prop do you actually like, Cody? You're just rambling on. I like the Kevin Holland submission prop. He hasn't submitted a guy in a long time, but again, he's been working on his jiu-jitsu. Travis Lutter gave him his black belt. Travis Lutter, as everybody knows, is the Michael Jordan of BJJ. So it's within high company. And then he's competing in pro grappling tournaments against high-level guys and doing well. He's working on his jiu-jitsu. I think he's going to snatch it up. You go back and you watch the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight, right? Alex Oliveira pins him up against the cage, tries to out-muscle him, tries to take him down, realizes he can't take him down. So eventually gets tired from trying to muscle him around and just sticks his head into a lazy guillotine choke. And Shavkat Rakhmonov essentially just locked up the guillotine from a standing position. Holland will do that. He's very tall. He's got excellent leverage. He loves attacking the neck. He's got a nice darts, nice bravo, and a nice guillotine choke. And I think at some point, Alex Oliveira is going to push him up against the cage, try to take him down, fail on it, get tired, get desperate, over to commit to something, get his neck snatched up. So plus 800, Holland by submission, sign me up.
That is a damn good line for a submission prop, especially with seeing how much we've seen Cowboy Oliveira give up or kind of just roll over and let his opponent kind of get the dub there. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Plus 850. Let me sprinkle some of that before we hop off propping you up today, because I do like that myself as well. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got 3 fights left to go. Very intriguing matchup here. A big step up for Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell as he takes on Edson Barboza. In terms of odds, we're looking at minus 165 for Bryce Mitchell, plus 145 the return on Edson Barboza. Now, Bryce Mitchell, solid winning streak, right? Well, he's undefeated, 14-0. Obviously, a lot of big victories on his record. Obviously, most recently, I believe he took out Andre Feely. Good fight from him there. If I'm not mistaken, it was 1-1 going into that 3rd round, and Bryce was able to pull off those takedowns and just control him for the majority of that last round. Pick up the unanimous decision that night. But the one thing here that I feel like is different is that I don't think we've seen Bryce have to deal with a striker like Edson Barboza before. And I think that's a big thing here, as I think we'll see Bryce really start to respect the range that he's going to have to close here against a guy like Barboza, especially when he has, those nasty punches, nasty leg kicks, nasty knees coming up the middle. I think he's going to have a lot to respect before he can go out there and try to dive on the legs of Edson Barboza. We see fights where Barboza's takedown defense holds up very well, similar to like the Makwan Amirkhani fights. Then we see it kind of just falter in other fights like the Kevin Lee fights, even the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight. But who the fuck is stopping Khabib's takedowns anyway, right? I think if we see Barboza go out there and play a similar game plan to how he did in the first 2 rounds against Makwan, he will have tremendous success here. And that's maintaining range, minding his P's and Q's, throwing quick shots, especially with his kicks, so he doesn't get them caught. He can bring them back and get back into his stance and start moving again. The big cage obviously aids him in that as well. I think just landing on Bryce Mitchell as much as possible and making him respect that range and not closing the distance recklessly will kind of demoralize Bryce Mitchell from closing a distance and getting his takedown game going. Again, if Barboza starts just ripping up the leg of Bryce Mitchell, I don't think that's something that we've seen Bryce have to deal with in the past, right? Who are the best strikers that he's fought in the UFC? Matt Sales, Andre Feely. None of those guys are going to garner any respect from Bryce Mitchell with their striking. Edson Barboza will. But the longer that this fight goes, that's where I think Mitchell will start to land some takedowns, especially if his leg is not as beat up as he could, if he starts checking kicks or getting out of the way of the kicks. But the speed in which Edson Barboza throw these kicks with, or even his strikes with, again, something that Bryce Mitchell probably hasn't faced in the past. So this is a huge step up for Bryce. And I think we can finally start straying away from the 145 is a bad division talk from Edson Barboza. The guy's mastered the weight cut now, hasn't missed weight to this point, and puts on solid performances. I thought he deserved to win the Dan Ige fight. And that was a fight where he was shucking off takedowns. The takedowns came a little bit easier later in the fight, but I don't think his gas tank gets compromised to the point that Bryce Mitchell is going to throw on a twister on this guy or throw in a rear naked choke or something on him. I think he'll be able to stay safe enough, but still eke out the first 2 rounds, maybe even get a finish in the first 2 rounds and get his hand raised that way. I like Barboza here, man. I think he's one of the better underdogs on this card. In terms of a method of victory, Barboza by KO at plus 330 is intriguing, but I do see this fight going the full 15 minutes, especially if it requires Barboza to mind his P's and Q's and just be as disciplined as possible, because that's what he's going to need to do to keep Bryce Mitchell off of him. Bryce's striking still has some ways to go, which is why I think that Barboza should pretty much have his way with him on the feet as long as he can keep it there. So Barboza by decision is even hanging at plus 400. I don't mind that myself either. Even the fight to start fight to start round 3 at minus 150. I don't think that's a bad line either. I do see this one kind of, being slow paced. Both guys kind of just waiting for their opportunities. If it's Bryce Mitchell getting his way, it's more than likely with the takedowns. And how much of a shot are we actually giving him to actually submit Edson Barboza in this spot? And then on the flip side with Barboza, again, KO is possible, but he needs to fight a clean fight similar to the Makwan Amirkhani fight. Last thing I'll say, then I'll flip it on over to you. I know Amirkhani landed 2 takedowns in the first and second round of that Barboza fight, but those came after Barboza was like, oh, the clock's running short. Let me just let go on a couple of strikes. And that's where he gave up the takedowns. But for 4.5 minutes, he is sharp. He is maintaining his distance. He's letting his strikes go, getting his damage off, and nullifying the takedowns of Makwan Amirkhani. That's what he needs to do here against Bryce Mitchell. And that's why I'm going to take Barboza by decision of plus 400. Sign me up. And fight to start round 3 minus 150. Sign me up for that as well. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, pretty same. Like, I think I'd say Barboza's a live underdog. I agree with all your points. I think he's far superior in the striking department. He's by far the best guy that Bryce Mitchell has had to encounter. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that you could like about him. It's the kind of fight that you flip back and forth with. A lot of it's recency bias, I think. When you look at Bryce Mitchell, again, he's one of these flavor du jour fighters, always undefeated. And well, who's he beaten? Tyler Diamond, Bobby Moffitt, Matt Sales, Charles Rosa, Andre Fili. Okay, so he's lacking any type of big wins. And in those fights, there's certainly spots where he does not look all that good, but yeah, everybody likes him. He's got camo shorts. He raps. He's, a funny kid from Arkansas. Like, it's easy to get behind him. And then when you think, well, what does he do well? Oh, he's really, really strong. And so he's able to just muscle guys to the ground, and then he's a good grappler. Oh, well, Edson Barboza always gets out-muscled and always gets peeled to the ground and always gets out-grappled. So it's like easy to do. But again, this guy out-grappled Matt Sales. Absolutely cannot grapple. He out-grappled Charles Rosa, who's probably the worst takedown defense you're going to see in the UFC anytime soon, right? Andre Fili, I don't know, that one's better win for sure, but not really a great wrestler or a great grappler. And by the way, the time he fought Bobby Moffitt, that's the only wrestler he's actually fought on his record. He got taken down 5 times. He got taken down. He never took down Bobby Moffitt once. In fact, it was not a very good fight, to be perfectly honest. So I think he's the kind of guy that could look awesome against tailor-made low-level opponents, but this is one hell of a step up. You're taking on a guy that's fought all the best guys in the division 5 times over. Like, my God. And again, when you run the narrative of, like, Edson Barboza can't wrestle, it's like, well, who's taking him down? Well, Makwan Amirkhani took him down. It's like, yeah, well, Makwan Amirkhani was a Finnish wrestling champion. He's actually scored at least 1 takedown in every single one of his UFC fights, except for his debut against Andy Ogle, because he fly-kneed the guy in 9 seconds, right? The guy's actually a really fine, pretty good wrestler. Bad cardio, good wrestler. Okay, well, so who else is actually taking him down? Well, Kevin Lee's a welterweight who somehow made 55. Nobody knows how. Okay, so he was able to get him. Anybody else? Khabib. Okay, Khabib went 6 for 13. Means Edson Barboza went out there and stuffed 7 takedowns. Pretty impressive shit as far as I'm concerned. All I'm saying is if he goes out there and stuffs the takedown and Mitchell is maybe not as ready as a lot of people think he is, I think Barboza is going to give him a lot of problems for sure. And then whereas I would like to hit that Barboza by decision prop, I'm also thinking like if he can't strike and he can't get this fight to the ground, he's going to be in a lot of shit. Andre Fili was taking his lunch money in that second round, was beating him up. It's 1-1 going into the third. And Mitchell just clings onto a takedown and pulls him to the ground, right? But it's not a particularly good performance. Barboza's the kind of guy, if you get sloppy and you make a mistake, I would suggest going and asking Terry Edom about it, but he don't remember. You could ask Beneil Dariush, but I can guarantee he don't remember. This fucking guy hits you, dude. You don't just get knocked out. You get separated from your consciousness for at least a month. So it's like Tam Dam or Corey. Remember he got KO'd one time in the UFC? and he's like, he decides to retire shortly after, and he's like, went backstage. Doctors are talking to me. They're like, "What's the last thing you remember?" Start talking to my wife. This is what we did today. This is everything I remember. And it was all from 1 month prior, not like a fucking week prior, not like a day. It was 1 month prior. And after that, he's just like, "Yeah, I'm done getting hit in the head. Like, gotta save my brain." And he's real political now. He's super political, real right wing.
Shut up, Barn Cat.
Barn Cat, dude. Yeah, I used to love Tam Dammercore. He had a total resurgence there, and then unfortunately, body wasn't able to take the damage anymore. But Barboza's taken some epic shit kickings and then come back the next fight and looked really good. Like, he's got an ability to rejuvenate himself. And I think 45 is a better division for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets taken down and gets held down and it's a lackluster decision. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he got that striking going, stuffed a few takedowns and made him pay. So live underdog. I like me a live underdog. I'll go with the Barboza by decision.
Last thing I want to say about this matchup, even after Barboza gets taken down, I do think he has the chops to work back to his feet and then get back to his striking game, which should kind of nullify the grappling success that Mitchell had, especially if Mitchell, if all he's doing is holding him down and then he gets touched up once this fight is back on the feet. You got to feel like the judges will favor the damage from Barboza. But again, we don't know what the fuck to expect with judges nowadays. I'm just trying to throw out there what they should be looking for.
Yeah, that's the thing with judges. What was the fight in the UFC? The wrestling meant shit. It doesn't matter. Ryan Bader, right? The wrestling in that fight, it's just like, oh, Moldavski's landing takedowns and Ryan Bader is getting taken down, but he's chipping away with short little punches. And like, that is the determining factor. You see other fights where it's not. It's, oh, the takedown is everything. You need the takedown. But yeah, when there's a live crowd, right, and the fight's on the ground, it's like, boo, stand him up, bro. And then when the fight gets standing and the guy that's been on the ground for 2 minutes comes out to you, smacks you with 2 kicks to the leg and a left hook to the body, everyone's like, yeah. That changes things. That changes things. I wouldn't feel good about it if it was Barboza the favorite, but he's the underdog, and I just think you and I were agreeing with a lot of points. I think he's live.
I like it. And sorry, Barboza decision, is that what you're liking as well here, or you think he takes his head off?
I'm gonna go. No, I think I'm gonna lean towards the Barboza by decision. I'm also gonna take that fight straight up goes to decision, which is plus 115, plus 117 right here on my book. But anyways, plus 115 fight goes to decision. If Mitchell does get his takedowns, and I know you actually brought this up earlier, but like, you think he's gonna twist your Edson Barboza? Like, okay, dude, good luck with that one.
I can't wait for somebody to clip that and play that after Barboza actually gets twisted.
right. You know what? Hit me up. And the first person that can send me that clipped format after Barboza gets Twitter, I'll hit you $100. I'll send it to you. The first person hits me up with that clip of me sounding like a jackass. But as far as I'm concerned, he should be able to survive the grappling exchanges. So if Barboza loses, he loses by decision. We're going to hit our fight goes the distance prop. Yeah. And if Barboza wins, could knock him out, but I'm going to lean towards decision just because the kid's tough. He's young. He's undefeated. He's from Arkansas, and he blew off his own testicle. Okay. And that didn't knock him out from like the sheer amount of pain. Would just, most people just go into shock. And they're like, what the hell happened? Oh, he blew off his own testicle.
Dang nabbit. There goes my nut.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, dang nabbit. I'm going to eat some squirrel. Because remember him and Augie Kubo on the Ultimate Fighter? He's like, well, what do you do back home? He's like, I hunt squirrel. He's like, you hunt squirrel? He's like, yeah, it's delicious. It's like, he's so likable. To the point that he's getting a favorite status over Edson Barboza. Yeah. That's dangerous. And I'm going to look to capitalize.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to the co-main event here. We got Money Moicano saving the day, coming in at plus 145. He goes up against Rafael dos Anjos, who comes in at minus 165. You got to feel for Rafael dos Anjos, though, who's had a couple fights fall out on him over the last couple of years. So initially, he was scheduled to fight Islam Makhachev in November of 2020. Makhachev is forced to pull out. Then they rescheduled about a year later, October of 2021, and then dos Anjos, unfortunately, has to pull out. They reschedule, then he gets lined up against Rafael Fiziev in February. That bout gets rescheduled. I think one of them tested positive for COVID. And now, once again, Rafael Fiziev tests positive for COVID this week and is forced out of the fight. But don't worry, Boha. In steps Renato Moicano. Big money Moicano trying to get that bag. But I think he's biting off a little bit more than he can chew this weekend, unfortunately. Mix in the fact that he traveled over 19 and a half hours yesterday into today to make it to Vegas. And now he has to cut weight as well to make it to the 160 pounds. He accepted the fight on Tuesday. Sorry, he got into Vegas yesterday at midday at noon. He got into Vegas, but still, now you got to go out there, cut weight, 20 pounds, a lot to ask for, and then go out there and potentially fight 5 rounds against one of the best guys to ever do it at 155 pounds in Rafael dos Anjos. Now, I get it. Dos Anjos getting up there in age. He's 37 years old, but his durability has held up pretty well over the last several years, right? Last time he got KO'd was when he lost the title to Eddie Alvarez back in July of 2016. So we're approaching 6 years since that knockout, but he's been taking big shots from guys in the past. Robbie Lawler, Kamaru Usman, even before he found the big power in his own strikes. Paul Felder, decent power in him. He was dealing with the power of Michael Chiesa from on top pretty well. Now you got a guy in Renato Moicano, who's a pinpoint striker, but is very nasty on the ground. But so is Dos Anjos. Dos Anjos' jiu-jitsu game is not that bad either. So I really think this comes down to Moicano either winning in the first 2 rounds or Dos Anjos taking over in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. And I do think he eventually finds a finish in that 4th or 5th round via just exhaustion from the Moicano side. I feel like Moicano has kind of accepted the fact that I need to win this fight in the first 10 minutes, and he might just go balls to the wall. And if he does not, then he's going to start to gas out, and that's where Dos Anjos wins, because this is a win-win situation for Moicano, right? If he wins, he wins. He gets a big name under his belt, and he wins it on short notice. If he loses, he wins anyway, because he was the guy that stepped in and saved the co-main event slot on a big pay-per-view card. But I still think that Dos Anjos will probably outmatch him here. Again, his durability should hold up. I think he's going to start to go for takedowns as this fight starts to drag on, start to suck the wind out of Moicano. And if you really watch that Moicano fight back against Hernandez last time around from last month, you do see him slowing down a little bit before he eventually finds that combination to put Hernandez on wobbly legs and then eventually get him out of there. So it's not like the guy's this crazy, cardio machine in his own right. He has pinpoint striking. His bread and butter is his jiu-jitsu, but I'd be damned if he goes out there and submits a guy like Rafael dos Anjos. So I do think that Dos Anjos is the rightful favorite here. Kind of surprised at the money that's been coming in on Moicano, but I think it's going to start to level out around minus 165 now for Dos Anjos. That's the side I like here, and I do like Dos Anjos later in this fight. So I'm going to be sprinkling a couple of those round props. Dos Anjos round 4 plus 1,600. Dos Anjos round 5 plus 2,200. This could be obviously one of those spots if you have access to those bookies where you can get Dos Anjos to win in rounds 4 or 5 or decision. I don't see any props available for that on best fight odds as of this moment, but I'm sure FanDuel or DraftKings have access to that. I think that this is one of those spots where you can hit that. So yeah, I like Dos Anjos. Think he deals with the striking early here for Moicano, but starts to take over with his grappling later in this fight and eventually either gets a late finish or wins this fight via decision. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, that's how I see it going down. I think he takes over the fight with his grappling, superior cardio, wins it down the stretch. I think he probably does get a TKO finish at some point. Yeah, I think there's a lot that you can like with Dos Anjos. He's 37 and he hasn't fought in like 14 months. Those are the two things you don't like about the guy. But outside of that, listen, he's got the 5-round experience. So this is a co-main event, non-title fight, but it's 5 rounds. And that means something because he fought 5 rounds against Paul Felder. He fought 5 rounds against Leon Edwards. He fought 5 rounds against Kamaru Usman. He fought 5 rounds against Colby Covington. He fought 5 rounds against Tony Ferguson. He went 5 rounds against Anthony Pettis. So 6 times in his career, he's gotten the full 5 minutes, okay? Now, the fight with Kevin Lee, scheduled for 5, and Kevin Lee's beating his ass through the first 3 as far as I'm concerned. And then as soon as Kevin starts to tire, Rafael don't. And Rafael puts a beating on him in the 4th and chokes him out. So that ability to fight later on into the fight, or if not, go the full 25, huge advantage for Rafael dos Anjos. Moicano just hasn't quite been there. You talk about Moicano's cardio, and again, he just hasn't quite been there. You can bring up certain examples like him versus Brian Ortega. Well, he's up 2 rounds, and then he gasses out in the 3rd round and gets finished by Brian Ortega. The Alexander Hernandez fight last time out. Starts off the fight awesome, looking really good standing. First 2 minutes, finding the range, doing pretty well. And then Hernandez shoots a takedown. They end up in a grappling exchange. He decides he wants to take Hernandez down. Doesn't get the first time. Lifts him up heavy the second time, dumps him on the ground. Commentary team's like, oh, he's trying to prove a point. Really went hard for that takedown. And then doesn't do anything on the ground. About 2 minutes left in the round. Fight gets back standing. Dude, he's gassed. Hernandez is all over in the last 2 minutes of that round. It's like, oh, man. Moicano's tired. He goes back to his corner, rub him out, comes out for the second round, and Hernandez doesn't push the action. He doesn't shoot a takedown just to get the guy worn. He stands in front of him, and it allows Moicano just to be like, fuck it. Throws the 3, 4, 5 punch combination together, tags him up, hurts him, stings him. there she wrote. It was the grappling exchange that tired him out. He can throw strikes. He can dance around from the outside. It's that real tough grind. That's what's seemingly going to get him. I think Dos Anjos does it almost as good as anybody. His last fight against Paul Felder, he shot 22 takedowns. He got 6 of them. Pretty impressive. 22. He was on Felder's hips the entire fucking fight for 25 minutes. Says a split decision, but he won the first 3 rounds as far as I'm concerned. He's a problem, dude. He just wants to wrestle now. He's just sticking on you. He's just shooting takedown. He's lost. Why? Because he was getting taken down, and he knows that that's a viable strategy. Paul Felder's a striker. It could have been a fun striker versus striker battle, but he did not bother. He just stuck on him with multiple takedowns. He's initially supposed to fight Islam Makhachev back in October 2021. Okay, so all you would do for that camp is wrestle, right? Of course. And then you're supposed to fight Rafael Fiziev for the last 2 bookings. Fuck, I would imagine all you'd want to do is wrestle, right? Like, you're going to stand in front of this guy? So I bet you he's been wrestling a lot in camp. That's been the strategy for his last number of opponents, and that'd be the same strategy here against Moicano. Why bother standing in front of him? He'll do what he did against Felder. He's got a really sharp laser left hand straight down the middle, right? Southpaw stance, shoot the left hand, shoot into a takedown. He'll smash Moicano with that left hand, but it'll only be to tie him up and try to tire him out. And once Moicano tires out, that's when you'll see Rafael start to pull over, right? So you got experience, you got 5 rounds, you got all that. Last but not least, because this does kind of secure it for me, Rafael Dos Anjos has fought at 170 pounds. He's fought the best guys in the world, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, at 170 pounds, because he's a gigantic lightweight who often struggles to make weight. You said last time he got knocked out, Eddie Alvarez. Correct. Last time, 4 or 5 years ago at this point. He had a really bad weight cut for that fight. Known that he's butt naked, half passed out 12 hours before he's got to step on the scale. He has a really bad weight cut, and then he gets touched up by Eddie. He decides to go up to 170. Doesn't quite work out. Guys are too big, too strong, too physical. They're taking him down. Comes back to 55, changes his diet, gets it going. This is a catch weight of 160. That favors him. Doesn't have to cut all the weight. It's 160. And he's already fought at 170 where he was not terribly undersized. That's a benefit. Moicano, meanwhile, used to fight at 145. Him coming up to 55, he doesn't look big in the division. And now he's going to be fighting at 160, a career high for him. Like, all of that benefits the guy with the better gas tank, who's got a grinding style, who's going to take you into deep waters and drown you in those deep waters. So RDA, man. RDA gets the job done, I think. And by specific prop, I think he TKOs him. I think he TKOs him late once he tires out.
I like it. I love to hear that as well. Yeah. Definitely going to be sprinkling those late props here, or those late round props, for Rafael Dos Anjos. All right. That brings us to our main event. And before we do that, shout out to the 150 live viewers we currently have in the live chat. Make sure you guys smash that like and subscribe for the guys over at the All-Star. Let them know you appreciate us on their platform. And then lastly, shout out to CloudBet as well, the first ever crypto book in the space. One of the most legit books out there as well. 100% match bonus on your first deposit. They have fast withdrawals, low margins, high limits, exactly what you want to hear from your bookie. And then lastly, if you don't have access to CloudBet, make sure you guys check out BOVADA. $250 welcome bonus on their end. Links are in the description below. Make sure you guys go check them out. And once again, shout out to the All-Star as well for putting us on their platform. All right, Cody, we got the second grudge match of the night. Maybe, not as real as Moroz versus Agapova, but still a grudge match nonetheless. We got Colby Covington going up against Jorge Masvidal. We got -305 on Covington, +240 on Masvidal. Both of them 1-2 in their last 3 fights. All 4 of those losses coming to the welterweight king, Kamaru Usman. Both of them getting finished once by Usman, and then the other one obviously going to a decision. Colby Covington has been neck and neck with Kamaru Usman throughout their 2 fights. Even that last fight, if you guys go over to MMA decisions and look at the judges' scorecards, one judge had at least 3 rounds each judge had at least 1 of 3 rounds for him, right? The 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round. And that's very impressive, especially considering he got dropped in that 2nd round and was able to rally back and get his wits back about him and really put on a strong performance in those last 3 rounds. But the judges still go with Kamaru Usman that night. But it still just goes further to show that he is probably number 2 right there in the welterweight division. I know Khamzat Chimaev is lurking in the wings right now, but he has to still go out there and prove it. Luckily for him, He's fighting Gilbert Burns next month. So that's definitely a very big spot for him to go out there and prove whether he's the real deal or not. But in regards to this fight, I feel like it looks like a lot like the first Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal fight, where we see a lot of takedowns coming from Colby Covington. He may not secure the majority of them, but he should secure some cage control and cage pressure time. And then even when they're out in space, Colby Covington has ridiculous output. Like, I still can't get that Robbie Lawler fight out of my brain, where he's able to throw up, 179 significant strikes and 10 takedowns. Absolute insanity. I think that's exactly what he's going to be able to do here against Jorge. Maybe not 10 takedowns, but he will have plenty of takedowns attempted. Jorge, in my opinion, has underrated takedown defense game, but Colby Covington's pace, output, and pressure is just something that a lot of fighters are not able to put up with. Unless your name is Kamaru Usman, more than likely you're going to break under that pressure. I've been trying to convince myself to place the bet on Colby Covington via decision here, because again, the guy's somewhat pillow-fisted. Not often you see him stinging or hurting or finishing guys, but like, if he puts on a ridiculous pace on Jorge Masvidal, can Masvidal keep it up for 25 minutes? Like, sure, if it was a 15-minute fight, maybe, but can he keep it up for 25 minutes? The Kamaru Usman fight, a lot of it up against the cage, right? That's the foot stomps fight. That's where everybody was making fun of Kamaru for just literally just foot stomping him the entire time. But I think that Covington will put more of a pace on him. He will break out into open space and will try to put that pressure together, put those combinations together, put that activity together, and really try to break Jorge Masvidal here. Sure, Masvidal always has that MMA Hail Mary chance to land this crazy shot, but I think that's very low volume, especially with the amount that Colby Covington moves, how well he takes damage, right? The last time he got finished was obviously by Kamaru Usman with that beautiful shot that Usman was able to land after a very back and forth 24-minute fight, right? I'd be surprised if Masvidal has as much success with the striking that Kamaru Usman had in that fight against Colby Covington. Because again, that the wrestling was nullified in that fight between Usman and Covington. Whereas I don't think it's going to be that nullified here against Masvidal. He will land takedowns. He will have Masvidal kind of thinking with the level change and having all those other aspects of MMA thrown into it, rather than having a boxing match, which is pretty much what Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman have been doing for the last 10 rounds. But this is going to be more of an MMA fight. This is going to be a complete MMA performance from Colby Covington, which is why I think the best prop is Covington via decision, which is currently around -105, -110, depending on what your book's at. Even the over 4.5, -155, I don't think that's a bad idea, right? There could be a chance for Jorge Masvidal to find some success in here, but I'd be surprised if he actually puts the lights out on Colby Covington, who's been relatively durable throughout his career. So, yeah, I like Colby here. Obvious, minus 300 favorite, makes all the sense in the world, but I think he'll outpoint and outwork Jorge Masvidal en route to a decision victory. Colby Covington via decision -110. Let's put that shit to the bank. How do you feel about this one, Cody?
Yeah, I think Colby Covington's got more durability than George Masvidal, truth be told. Like, if you want to talk about, they both took Usman's best right hand, right? It completely knocked out George Masvidal. Colby Covington, it broke his jaw. It was an early stoppage, dog. Early stoppage. He was still conscious. He was still with it. But what you see is George fights Usman the first time. George wins the first round and then loses 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then gets a rematch and got knocked out in the second round. I thought he looked good in the first round. It struck him again. And then gets knocked out in the second. So he did way better the first time than he did the second time. Colby, meanwhile, fights him tooth and neck the first time, does better the second time. A lot of people thought Colby Covington won the second fight. Like, he did an excellent job. He's only still getting better. George, hate to call him it, he's a journeyman. He's journeyman George, 37 years old, 15 pro losses, 50-fight guy. He's been around the block, but he is who he is. But again, MMA loves these characters. They love these bigger-than-life guys that come in and they wear tiger skin and they do flying knees and they act like Tony Montana. Like, people like that stuff. So you become a fan favorite. Once you become a fan favorite, it doesn't matter that you have 0 chance of winning, right? They'll still bet you. People bet Nate Diaz in a lot of fights. Why? Going to lose. Fight Nate Diaz. People bet Conor McGregor to beat Floyd Mayweather. Why? Because it's Conor McGregor. You know the fucking guy's going to lose. He has no chance. He has no fucking chance. But you bet him anywhere. He's a fan favorite. So in Masvidal's case, it's not like he's got 0 chance. He's got the flying knee. He's got this crazy theatrics, but he is who he is. He's a quick finisher or he fades down the stretch. So keep this in mind, right? His wins, Jake Ellenberger, first round knockout. Yeah. Donald Cerrone, second round knockout. Okay, we know he's capable of the first 2 round knockouts. The Damian Maia fight, okay? 1-1 going into the third. It's anybody's fight. Who wants it more? George gets tired. He gets taken down. He gasses out. He accepts the position. He loses it. Lost the third round, tired. Okay. Stephen Thompson fight. First 2 rounds, somewhat competitive. Third round, Stephen Thompson triples up the strikes on him. Outlands him like 38-16. First 2 rounds are close. Third round, he's just clowning on him. The Darren Till fight. Masvidal actually gets dropped in the first round and then comes back, gets the second round knockout. Okay, he can beat these mid-level guys by knockout. He beats Ben Askren, crazy. He beats Nate Diaz, who's not very good. He can beat those guys. When you match him against Kamaru Usman, who's a premier level talent, like he just has the 1 round. He won the first round in the first fight against Usman, lost the rest of them. The second fight, he won the first round against Usman and then gets knocked out in the second. He's not built to fight a hard 15 minutes. He's never fought 25 minutes. Since what? Since he got routed 5-0 against Gilbert Melendez in the Strikeforce? The guy's not a 5-round fighter, right? And Colby's hard to put away. So yeah, even if the first round or 2 are competitive, he's going to grind on him. He's going to break him and he's going to beat him. And I know a lot of people are talking former training partners. They know each other's style. They know what each other does. George knows what Colby does. No, he fucking doesn't. No, he fucking does not. And I'll tell you why he does not. Because when these guys meet up, when they befriend each other, when Dan Lambert goes to the University of Oregon and recruits Colby Covington and flies him out to Florida and puts him up with George Masvidal to be a roommate, when that all happens, George Masvidal is 22-6 in MMA. He has 28 fights. He's an established pro. He's fighting for the Strikeforce world title. He signs a UFC contract the next year. Colby Covington made his pro debut. How do you think those sessions in the gym went? Well, I tell you how they went because a lot of it's online. Colby Covington smashes George in the wrestling department. George beats Colby Covington in the striking department. But that's expected because Colby's never struck a day in his life, right? Does George think he's going to beat up the same guy he beat who had no fucking idea how to throw a punch? No. This guy's 10 years into his career now. He knows how to strike. And the difference is George never learned how to wrestle. His wrestling never got any better. It was the reason why Dan Lambert tried to recruit wrestlers to come to ATT and help these guys. George just never got better in the wrestling department. He can wrestle a little bit, just not against elite level guys. Usman couldn't necessarily take him down every time, but he just so much cage control. Yeah, foot stomp or not, it was like George couldn't get his back off the cage, and he blamed it the first time on, oh, dog, took this fight on 3 days' notice, and I cut a ton of weight. Good excuse, because valuable, dude. He did take the fight on 3 days' notice. Like, I can't fault him for that. Fought 25 minutes off a bad weight cut, props. Second fight, full camp, knocked out, second round, same shit, just gets tired. Like, how could you not like George Masvidal, right? He's a character of the game, but don't let that suddenly change your mind that you think he's just going to soar across the ring like an eagle. By the way, if you can clip this when Colby Covington gets knocked out with a flying knee 5 seconds into the fight, I'll give you $100 if you're the first guy to send me this clip. It's MMA, dog. Anything can happen. I just think we got to go with what's more logical. And what's more logical is live bet Colby Covington after the second round because it'll look good for the first 2. 3, 4, 5 championship rounds. You know why they call them that? Because the champions, they can fight the 5 rounds. They take over when it matters the most. George is a character. He's Street Judas. You know, he's fun. He's entertaining. He's not a 5-round guy. He's not a champion. Never will be. And I think you're going to see that.
I love it. I love it. That just gives me that extra little confidence as well to go out there and just lay that Colby decision -110, honestly, because I do think that he'll just run through him, control him. Again, I think Masvidal is durable enough to deal with it later on. But I do think that we'll see Colby go out there and get the dub. All right. Those are the breakdowns. Let's get to the best prop bets that me, Cody, and John have. But first and foremost, let me share the guest that I have for next week. I'd be surprised if the majority of people in the live chat who know who this guest is. But Cody, I know you know who he is. We got my guy, Mike Constantino, a name that a lot of people have probably not heard for him in a long time. He used to head AMA Fight Club over there in the New Jersey region. Used to train guys like, let me know if you guys have heard some of these names: Khabib Nurmagomedov, Jim Miller, Dan Miller, Amanda Nunes, Adlan Amagov, Charlie Brenneman, Ricardo Romero, and even Jimmy Hedges from way back in the day. But this guy used to be around the game for a long time. Very solid trainer, very good coach, and he's an even better now. The guy's actually a part of the $500 high stakes lock of the night challenge, and he's in second place right now, going 6-0 on all of his picks. And he's only 2 months into the competition now. So very much looking forward to the insight that he has to drop on my show. That's going to be happening tomorrow at some point between 2:30 p.m. Eastern and 3 o'clock Eastern. He has a show that he does that wraps up just around 2:30, and then he's going to be hopping on my show right away. So that will be on my channel. Make sure you guys go check that out. I'm very interested to hear what my man Mike Constantino has to say. All right, let's get into our 3 best prop bets. I'll kick things off as always here. First and foremost, I got Ulanbekov and Elliott to go over 2.5 at -165. I'm expecting a heavy grappling fight from both guys here, but I think they'll nullify any submission threat from either side. And I think we see this fight go over that 12.5-minute mark. Secondly, I got Spivak round 2 +500. I truly believe that he'll be able to survive that early onslaught from Greg Hardy here, initiate the grappling, really get Greg Hardy to work, get him to huff and puff, and then by that second round, he should be able to secure that takedown, secure that submission, and take home a victory that night. And lastly, I'm going to go with Covington via decision -110. I just feel like that's one of the easiest prop bets on the card here. Again, not a potent finisher is Colby Covington. And for the most part, Jorge Masvidal has been quite durable, although the caveat of him coming back after his first ever professional knockout loss does kind of weigh on my head a little bit. But I'd be surprised if Colby Covington is the next one to knock out Jorge Masvidal or even submit him in this spot. Next up, we're going to go to my guy John's 3 best prop bets, and then we'll get to Cody's. He's obviously kicking off with Colby Covington via decision at -110 as well. Secondly, he likes the Barboza and Mitchell fight to go to decision at +125. I think that's a damn good spot. And lastly, he likes Marina Rodriguez to win via decision at +110. I can't argue that either. All right, Cody, you are up, my friend.
Yeah, well, Jason R says Colby is going to teabag George all night long. I agree. I think the 3 of us agree. So I'm going all night long means by decision, by the way. He's not going to cut the teabag in short. So Covington by decision. I think we're on the same page there like that. Moving on, I like to play a little bit safe, little mid-range play here. We got, let it load up on the screen for you here.
Oh, Colby via decision -110.
Yeah, is anything coming up?
There you go.
All right, Nurmagomedov by decision +100. A little more value on that one. Kelleher's tough. I'm a little bit worried maybe his submission defense lets up if he gets grinded for a hard 15, but Umar has been coming off a little bit of a layoff, 1 fight in the last 2 years. I don't think he throttles him. I think he does comfortably enough to win all 3 rounds, 30-27, but I like the decision. I like the +100. And hey, not every fight's going to go to decision, right? Kevin Holland by submission, baby. We talked about this one at length. Me likey. Now you might say to yourself, hey, I went on Tapology. I checked out his record. Some bitch hasn't submitted anybody in a long time. That would be correct. However, similar to John Phillips, when you have bad submission defense, the submission will present itself. Oliveira, not bad submission defense, bad cardio. Cardio makes a coward out of all of us. That is the truth. That's not a shot at him. That's a shot at every human being. Once you get tired, it's when your brain's like, I don't really want to be here anymore. Oliveira gets tired. He kind of looks for a backdoor. When he looks for the backdoor, Holland's going to be there to snatch up that neck with the standing guillotine choke, baby. +100. I like it. So, yeah, hopefully we got 2 safe ones here. Covington, Nurmagomedov by decision, and then Holland +800 by submission. Have a little fun, make a little money.
There we go. There you guys have the props for UFC 272. Again, shout out to the All-Star for having us on their platform. Cody, always great to chop up the fights with you as well. It's always something special when I feel like we get together and get to chop up these cards. Seems like the live chat is always a big fan of when we get to do a collab like this. I'll give it on over to you one more time here in case you want to plug anything, and then I'll wrap this thing up on the back end.
Hell yeah, brother. I love talking fights with you every time we can. I know we just do pay-per-views, but it's always good to get a different opinion, a different bit of insight. And, I really do respect what you bring to the table as well. You know that. I've known you outside of capping and picks. Like, I know you in real life. We're not just,
10
let
years,
me come on
dog.
your show. Yeah,
it's almost been 10 years. Holy fuck.
Yeah, dude. And I remember you hit me up to be like, oh, I'm just starting out this MMA Lock of the Night thing. It was like, yeah, dude, badass. And you've taken it a long way. And not just because you got great marketing and all this. It's because you got the hustle, you got the eye. So always a pleasure to come jump on your show. Comment section's been booming. A lot of great takes, a lot of good supportive crowd. Appreciate that. Of course, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And dudes are scrapping it out in the comment section too. So it's got pay-per-view vibes on it, baby. UFC 272. If Agapova and Moroz got a grudge, and Masvidal and Colby Covington's got a grudge, I'd have to look through the comment section for these 2 guys. They have fucking got a grudge, man. I like it. I like the passion. I appreciate it. And of course, thanks for taking a few hours out of your day to come listen to me and Manpreet. We do like that. We appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, make sure you guys check out my guy on the Dogger Pass podcast every Wednesday as well on their channel over there. My stuff as well on the Manpreet Jazz channel now, no longer the MMA Lock of the Night channel, but I'm still pushing the Lock of the Night brand, but trying to be a little bit more professional about it. So make sure you guys go check out my content as well. And then obviously check out all the other content that the All-Star has. Great work that they're doing. Shout out to JHK and Dan Hooker doing the MMA Live. That's a live show. They do it after every single UFC event. They go live, talk to the chat, just recap the card. So a ton of great content on this channel as well. So don't just come to here for us. Come here for them as well. All right. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. Good luck in your bets. And I'll see you guys for the next Prop Me Up episode back on my channel next week to break down Magomedov Ankalaev versus Thiago Santos, which is a great freaking card as well for a fight night, but a great fight as well. But for this weekend, let's go Colby Covington via decision. Let's call it War Colby Covington via decision. Let's go.